Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Gentlemen Strangers on the You Trash crew. We are them, this is it, you are you. What a world we live in. I hope everyone's had a wonderful couple of weeks since we last streamed. Thanks to how long it takes me to edit and upload the VODs on YouTube, it does really only look like a couple of weeks. Um, I apologize for the delay, but we're doing our best, and I really want everyone to be in the last couple of episodes. So I hope you will consider your patience rewarded as we delve into this fine mess that our friends, the Gentlemen Strangers, have gotten themselves into. For those who have not yet managed to catch up, the Gentlemen Strangers learned of a plot at Lambeth Palace, the historical home of the Archbishop of Canterbury, where several luminaries were to attend, including members of the royal family and members of other religious communities. And they believed that there was an assassination plot. They'd been tipped off by Thorne and Wynne that there was an assassination plot. They investigated, and it turned out that the plot was a frame-up job, as there were well, fake is a controversial word. There were imposter members of the Gentlemen Strangers present, publicly performing the attempted assassination. Our strangers escaped the premises as efficiently as they could, with actually very few hiccups. They kind of efficiently punched and ran, and possibly in one case stabbed their way out, and are now London's most wanted. Their highest crime of which they are accused of the attempted assassination of the Prince of Wales. But there were deaths at the party, so it's a horrific time. So, gentlemen strangers, I am curious about something. You have been cut off from going to Aventine, from doing the sorts of general gentleman strangery present stuff. You each have different relationships with between your strangers' lives and your daylight lives. So I'm curious, a lot of you have full-time jobs. I mean, Mr. Spider, for example, you are a civil servant. Have you just put aside your opera cloak and mask and just tried to live as Nathaniel Breaker? Have you found some excuse to stay in the Millennium Club in hiding? What's been your vibe?
So he was quite injured and quite sort of strung out. So I think Nathaniel for a little while, um, he took a small holiday to lurk in the Millennium Club and recover. And then I think he will have gone back to work, but done as much of his he's always paying attention to London's underworld. He's always
Sure.
making plans and keeping his files. But you know, I think he always been quite good at sort of switching between the two types of brain. Like
Mm.
when he's Nathaniel, he's very good at not being Mr. Spider, and when he's Mr. Spider, he doesn't think about Nathaniel. Um, so, and to be fair, I think Nathaniel Breaker has a reputation for being quite sort of serious and
Mm.
work oriented, and he doesn't socialize all that much. So it's not like people are going, "Oh, you seem really out of sorts." They're just like, Does he seem anything?"
Great. Okay. Mr. Leech, you're in a slightly different position than that because, of course, the fellow gentlemen strangers don't really have any clue at all about your out of costume identity. They haven't. They wouldn't even guess that you were a man or a woman because they've never seen your face or really properly heard your voice. So, what have you been doing since the most wanted thing?
How long has it been? That would
It's
be
actually not been too long. It's been a few days, less than a week.
okay. Yeah, they're probably the Leech is probably just in the Millennial Club. I mean,
Right.
but in their own space. Or in the lab at least.
Hmm.
They were kind of uh they were pretty hurt like they weren't like Mr. Spider hurt, but they were hurt enough. And they probably were a bit spooked, I'd guess. Like this is the highest it's ever been, really. Like that was yikes for them. So I feel like just staying out of the way of people, keeping to themselves, trying to make sure they're not as harmed as they were. Just staying out of it. That's too much for them. It's been too much for them.
So Mr. Leech has decided to not risk it, just stay in, work on the lab, whatever.
Yeah, and I would say, like, they're even probably planning at this point to go back to their family home, family farm. Like, they don't want to be part of this much.
Sure.
So they're probably in like packing mode and getting things ready to go back to the south of England, because they're not a fan. They just want to go back to normal, quiet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mr. Leech and Mr. Lurk are relatively new to the Gentlemen Strangers, and from their point of view, it's escalated much more quickly than it has from Mr. Spider-Man's point of view. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mr. Lurk, you have a complication, of course. You can't just go missing from your job. You have the option of going missing from your wife. So what has been Mr. Lurk's strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely not doing very well. This is the first time since he got married that he's been away from his wife for very long, and as a hashtag wife guy, that has not been very easy for him. I think that he's struggling a lot. You know, he's like going to work as he needs to, but I think he would try to take some time off if that's an option from his boss. But I think he's spending most of his time just at the club.
Right.
And I'm sure that a lot of the other gentlemen who are there can see that he's unraveling a little bit. He definitely looks a lot more like disheveled, and, you know, he looks rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think because you have, from your, unlike Mr. Spider, your work life kind of works on sort of a freelance basis. So your thing is more, the best person to talk about my troubles is my wife, except that I can't talk to her about these troubles because that would, yeah. And Mr. Hound, you're possibly the most freelance of any of the Gentlemen Strangers. What have you been spending this time doing, and where?
I think in his bullheadedness, he's going to insist on business as usual. Because, like you say, he will show up from time to time and do odd jobs at the orphanage. He is a resurrectionist, and so will spend some of his evenings just going around digging up dead bodies. But he is mightily hurt, and he will have concocted, he fell off a ladder, painting a wall. That's why he's limping. He's just pulled something in his back. But he doesn't respond well to threats and to restrictions, and so he's just kind of forcing himself through. This is my day to day. I don't care if I'm being hunted. He's very confident in his own abilities to fend off any attackers, but more importantly, he needs the normality, because if that's taken away from him, he's got nothing.
Yes, you don't want to be forced, even if it's only temporary, to only be Mr. Hound and never actually get to be Anwar and do the things that make you you, yeah. So, when there is a knock on the front door of the Millennium Club, it sounds to me as though Mr. Lurk and Mr. Leech might hear it, but Mr. Spider and Mr. Hound may not be there.
Yeah, I think Mr. Lurk would probably be the one to...
Yeah, Leech is not doing that.
Okay. Mr. Lurk, you open the door. The Millennium Club does not receive visitors, because it is a... You could assume that it was a private residence, just based on the occasional nature of it having light on. but it doesn't receive visitors because, of course, no one should know there's really anyone of consequence here. When you open the door, you see the broad figure of Mr. Edward Hyde of the Aventine. May I come in?
Yeah, of course.
How have you been doing?
You know, trying to keep a low profile.
I'm sorry I've had to keep you away for the time being.
I mean, it's got to do what you got to do.
Oh yes. Well, this is a little awkward, but I don't suppose you could show me down to your basement, could you?
Is this something that would be like a usual request? Like, does this seem...
Well, your basement is full of quite a lot of incriminating, highly private, some might even say illicit, materials. So it's certainly not a usual thing to do. No.
You know, let me go check with Mr. Spider, see if he's here, and I can... Yeah, just wait here, and I'll check with the others.
I'll be here.
I will go see if Mr. Spider, Mr. Leech, if anybody is around.
Leech was probably listening, like hanging around, listening to see what's going on.
Well, yeah, then I will definitely, let you know.
They won't be far.
It would be great if Mr. Spider were here. And it would be even better if Mr. Hound were here, but they probably are not here at this moment.
No. You do have a means of summoning them if you wish to. You have deeply haunted ravens.
I think at this point, Mr. Lurk is probably like, you know what, fuck it. Things are going to shit anyway. So yeah, I guess I will gather Mr. Leech and lead Mr. Hyde down to the basement.
That's a sentence everyone loves. It's just redolent with just the best possible thing you could do in that situation is I lead Mr. Hyde down to the basement. I mean, there goes my camera. I told you it would. But fortunately, it hasn't rearranged anyone else's faces. So I'm just going to sit... There we go. So, despite doing something that has true crime written all over it, he doesn't seem at all... Mr. Lurk, you particularly, because you are security-minded, you notice all the sorts of behaviours that people undertake when they're up to something. And Hyde is doing this thing that people do when they want to broadcast, I'm not looking anywhere I shouldn't be. I'm here for one thing. You see it sometimes when you're escorting a junior bank clerk or something into the vault. They wouldn't normally be allowed in. You know they're not... Normally they wouldn't be here. And so they're like, where's box 317? That's the only thing I can see, Hyde is definitely... You know he knows perfectly well there's some stuff down here. But he is making a beeline for the tunnel that leads down eventually to the boat dock where your currently mothballed little schooner lies. Little skiff.
Yeah, is there anything in particular that I can help you find? I don't,
No,
there's a lot of stuff down here, so...
No, I'm here to... Hold on a moment, it was around here somewhere. There I go again, turning into a bin. Sometimes you just got to turn into a bin. For cock's sake. Right. That's the password. Seriously, Zoom and my webcam have decided to have a little bit of a beef today, folks. So he leads you down right through the cellar. He knows exactly where your secret door out is. I think he knows exactly where your secret door out is, but he wouldn't be rude enough to open it. He'll stop outside it and go, would you mind?
I open it?
Right, let me see. 20 spaces this way. Here we are. 4 feet up. Here we go. And what could be more classic than a dank secret tunnel with an ancient rusted wall sconce that is actually the lever for a secret door, which presently Mr. Hyde uses. The plan was originally that Madam Whisper would have a few of these tunnels built. I don't know how many that she managed to get finished, but this one leads to a compartment in the cellar of the Aventine. Now, the reason I've kept you away is because I wanted to be sure of the clientele, and to make sure that no one would get any ideas about the value of the reward for handing any of you in. But I'm fairly confident that they've gotten the message that that would not be a very good idea for them. So, although it's not a good idea for you to be in the open street, I want you to know you are welcome in my establishment, and here is the route to achieve it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I will definitely let the others know.
Well, that's all I came to do. I'd offer to show myself out, but perhaps you'd feel better if you escorted me.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Of
Yeah.
course I don't mind, I understand.
How are you holding up? I know outside is a bit much with the storm and all.
I have rarely known stranger days, that's true. It is... The storm doesn't seem to be getting any worse, but it's having a strange effect on everyone's mood. It certainly should have gone by now, don't you think?
Yes, we're definitely looking into it as best as we can, but
It's a shame Madam Whisper didn't slow down. She was always good with this sort of thing. I'm sure you'll figure it out, though. You seem a sharp lot.
all right. Well, I'll let the others know that you.
Yes,
Came
sorry,
by.
I won't take any more of your time. I'll see you when I see you. Good night, Mr. Lurk. He puts on his hat and pops his collar and heads out into the squall.
I inform the rest of the strangers via whether they're here or via our haunted ravens that we now have access to the Aventine.
I believe that the ravens can only summon us to the Millennium Club. We don't use them to send messages.
Yeah. The way that it actually works is that the appearance of the raven says you are needed at the Millennium Club.
I see.
Come soon. Unfortunately, not having there's no reason you couldn't tie a message around one of their feet.
No, I think I don't want to have like a paper trail
Fine.
Of any kind. I think Mr. Lurk is definitely very cautious at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I will summon them to let them know.
So Spider and Hound, you are visited by deeply haunted, arguably vampiric ravens. Do you answer the summons, or do you stay put?
Answer.
Okay, I think that was answer. You were muted, but I think that was answer.
I unmuted at the appropriate time.
Good.
You just weren't
Seemingly
listening.
not.
I see. I understand. So yeah, Spider and Hound. Fortunately, there are ways into the Millennium Club that are not the front door, which obviously Spider and Hound you're more familiar with. Possibly they didn't exist when Mr. Hyde last came here, but you were able to get in without any risk of someone seeing a visitor showing up. Yeah, over to you. Ready?
What is it?
Mr. Hyde showed up and requested to head down to the basement, and he showed me
let him?
He showed us a secret tunnel to the Aventine, if that...
You let a stranger into the basement.
I didn't think Mr. Hyde was a stranger.
He's
And given
not
that you weren't around, I used my own judgment.
your own? Clearly.
Wasn't Hyde a stranger anyway? A gentleman stranger.
We haven't had the chance to interrogate him on that, and clearly he's decided he's not anymore.
He said that Madam Whisper had some tunnels put in. At least some. I don't know how many there are, but one of them leads to the Aventine, and I feel like that's important information to have, and I just wanted to let you know. Whether or not you approve, it is done.
Moral luck aside, Lurk. No? I'm not going to lose my temper about this. But your judgment in this instance did not reflect reason. I'm going to go check the basement.
I shall wait for Spider to leave. I am pretty confident you wouldn't have let someone in if they were a copper. You are right. Hyde is someone that we are familiar with. I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you.
There's anyway, so
Tunnel. Exciting.
So yeah, do you subsequently follow Spider?
As well.
Mr. Spider, to the best of your ability to tell, nothing has been disturbed in the basement?
Yeah. He's checking that. He does believe that they were with Mr. Hyde and so nothing was taken, but someone has been in his space and now he can't relax until he's gone and touched everything and checked.
Mm-hmm.
And then checked out this door.
Yeah, the despite the rather aged nature of the classic choice of a hinged wall sconce, the mechanism seems fine. In fact, Mr. Leech, are you there?
I would assume so, yeah.
You might even note the distinctive aroma of some sort of anti-rust solution, some sort of penetrating oil. You think that from the other side this door has been maintained.
Oh. Smells like oil. Like somebody's been making sure it works.
Yes, it's not creaking. Imagine if they were built by Jekyll, then he would have taken some steps to ensure that they functioned. All right, let's go check it out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a walk. The tunnels are not... The nature of London, of course, is that it's very difficult for you to make secret tunnels that don't also intersect with existing underground infrastructure. So it's not like this is a completely... There are several secret doors involved, is what I'm saying. It's not one whole tunnel. So it's not a perfect escape route if you were being followed, but since you end up in places no one really would be unless they were specifically following you, it's about as good as you can get. And it's a little less direct than even a walk through the streets to get to Aventine. So it's a good half an hour or so at your exploratory pace, maybe a little slower as you get accustomed to the route. But you reckon if you were going at a decent clip, it would be about half an hour's walk between one and the other. And you emerge in a what is clearly, you can smell that it is the cellar of a pub. You can smell beer barrels. You can smell the dust of a wine cellar and so forth. But there's a sort of this curtained off section. You navigate your way through a pile of what else have been engineered to look like broken and rotten barrels that have been sequestered away. Any inquiring mind who actually came down here would wonder why bother keeping them. But there's a part of the human brain that slides off a pile of refuse, and doesn't inquire too deeply into it. And you emerge into the extensive cellar of the Aventine. And you can hear above the usual sounds of an evening's patronage.
How busy does it sound?
Average sort of weeknight.
Hmm.
There's no one on the piano currently.
Well, it would have been rude to have come all this way and not had a drink. Mr. Spider heads for the stairs.
I'll follow.
Yeah, you clamber up. You emerge into one of the upper stock rooms. There's a sort of a cold room up here where he keeps various food items. Sort of a glorified pantry, really. And out into the bar area. Perhaps you might have hoped for a moment in which everyone ceases their drinking and gazes directly at you. Perhaps someone tinkles a piano key discordantly, but I've already said there's no one playing the piano, and it would take a lot of effort for them to dash to the piano, to pretend to be playing it, to tinkle a couple of keys, to look up surprised. You are regarded as you come in by a few people, but it's the regard of, yep, we're deliberately not paying you too much attention when you come in. And you do see a couple of people looking a little more unsure, but they catch Mr. Hyde's gaze behind the bar and resume the peaceful conduction of their evening. Your usual table is, of course, unoccupied.
Mr. Spider will go and sit.
Yeah, I think it's good to acclimatize yourself here again. And it's only been a few days, but it's been a few days and an entire paradigm shift in your relationship with the City of London. So there is something to acclimatize yourself to. Hyde brings you over your drinks. Thank you for coming.
Perhaps, Mr. Hyde, we should have a little talk.
Bessie, manage the bar for me, would you? Let me take your drinks up to my office. Let's make ourselves comfortable. I had a feeling, he says as he sits down in his rather nice chair, I had a feeling that my arrival at the Millennium Club would bring about such a conversation, but at the end of the day, I suppose, I do owe it to you.
I had intended to make the journey myself before everything happened.
There are some things that I consider to be confidences, but you have my word I shan't deliberately lie. You are owed the truth. You must be curious.
Desperately.
I doubt I shall be as amenable to having this conversation a second time, so he looks at you all and says, make the most of it.
When did you first meet Madam Whisper?
15, 16 years ago now. Well, I first met her 9 years ago. But she's been in my acquaintance for about 15 years, thereabouts. We met through a mutual friend, you could say.
Who is Dr. Jekyll?
He was one of the founding members of the Gentlemen Strangers.
Who else was a founding member of the Gentlemen Strangers?
I don't, you have to understand that, a lot of these people have gone into hiding in one form or another, and I don't think you have a right to know.
Well, some of them have come out of hiding. So, I would be very amenable to knowing, as they seem to know more than we do.
You have to be referring to Mr. Haunt.
I must be, mustn't I?
He was the first of us to leave.
Yes, he seems to have taken something very personally.
I don't need to tell any of you that the life that you've chosen to lead, as noble as it may be, is one of hardship, strife, and strain of the most profound and intimate nature. You must feel sometimes as though the whole weight of the crusade that you're on is pressing upon your minds.
Yes, it is indeed a very heavy burden for a person to choose to take upon themselves. It would be a heavy burden for a man to choose to take upon himself once. Yet I seem to have done so twice, Mr. Hyde.
That night, a few months ago, when I saw you and Mr. Slide walking into the Aventine, I knew something had gone wrong. When it started, it was the three of us. Madam Whisper, Mr. Haunt, and the man that polite society knew as Dr. Henry Jekyll, but that the Gentlemen Strangers gave the name Mr. Hyde, after Hyde Park. They had an idea that London, being at the centre of the civilized world, was also likely to attract the world's most monstrous elements. Aside from anything philosophical or historical, over 2 million souls dwell. Let me correct that. Over 2 million living people dwell here. I shan't be counting how many souls are here. Madam Whisper, as I'm sure you realize by now, was intimately connected with that side of existence. As in each of their own ways were Henry and Mr. Haunt. Though Henry always considered himself purely a man of the empirical sciences, there are places where the empirical sciences and the other world blend together. This is the realm of the alchemist. And ultimately, the realm of the wizard and the vampire. My involvement personally was very limited. And I was never a gentleman stranger. I was merely brought along, quite unwillingly.
What happened between you and Jekyll?
Put simply, there started being a me and Jekyll. Jekyll was a man of conscience who wished not to be. He had developed a process to greatly augment the limitations of the human form, mentally, physically, even in his own words, eventually, spiritually. Eventually, Mr. Hyde stopped being his codename and started being his nightly identity. One would not clearly remember what the other had done. Mr. Hyde would not clearly remember anything that he had ever done before, each night a newborn, made to do the most, well, I think based on your own experience, you know the sorts of things he would be called upon to do. The sorts of things that might scar a man of a genteel disposition like a physician, a Harley Street practitioner. He pioneered several methods of detecting and recording supernatural events. He developed a new method of photography that made use of a particular preparation of gold that could reveal upon development certain spiritual disturbances. If you've managed to access his laboratory, perhaps you've uncovered some of his notes. If you're able to decode them, perhaps you can replicate his processes. He would not necessarily wish you to do so, but if he preserved that laboratory, he must have meant for someone to. Anyway, one morning, for the first time, I woke up, having slept the night. But I wasn't... There are limits to my ability to explain what happened, because neither of us ever figured it out before it was too late. Mr. Hyde was not Edward Hyde, this man you're looking at now. He was a short and wiry, skinny fellow, like a mythological goblin, known for being able to crawl into tight spaces and uncanny strength. But always sickly. Each time he would only live a night, so it never mattered. One morning I woke up in this body. This is the body of Dr. Henry Jekyll, which I had woken up in. And lying near death in a chair in the study was the body of Mr. Hyde. And waking up into it was the quite broken mind of Dr. Henry Jekyll. For the first time, there were two of us. And for the first time, I remembered the evil things he'd put me to. I didn't resent him for them because I wasn't really capable of such an emotion. Madam Whisper tried her best to divine what had happened. How could there be two bodies? when all that had happened before was the transformation of one body into another shape of body? How could there be two minds when all there had been before was a mind constrained by the morality of the Victorian middle class, transformed into the mind of a back alley knife man with an uncanny ability to get into places he shouldn't be able to? She never found out, but she had certain abilities where the human mind was concerned, and she decided that the only help she could be somewhat at Dr. Jekyll's insistence was to lock him away from his memories. Maybe if that decision had been made a few months earlier than it was, it wouldn't have been too late. The next few years he ruined himself trying to reverse the process. I honestly believe he would have killed me to achieve it, if I'd let him. And maybe on that first morning I might have done, but by the time he decided to do it, I lived long enough that I decided I wanted to live. I felt I had the right. Anyway. He descended, and I kept trying to track him down and help him find help, but by the time I got to him, he was already... I don't know what he'd pumped himself full of, but his insistence that there was a chemical solution to this, that there was a method born from the empirical sciences that could answer this problem, ultimately killed him. They offered me a place. I refused. And I asked if Madam Whisper would let me forget, but it never took. I thought she'd kill me. Easiest way to keep the secret. But for some reason, whatever she had left in her that was anything approaching humanity spoke to her loudly enough that day, and she let me walk away. Henry had left me his entire estate. I packed everything up, cashed out, and bought the Aventine. And I look back upon him once a year when I take a drink to the anniversary of, I suppose, my birth. So there we are. I'm afraid I don't have all the answers you probably want. But that's as true as an account as I can give you. As for Mr. Slide and Mr. Spider, they had been recruited just before my separation from Henry. So I barely knew them. But
How long ago was that?
8 years ago now. Mr. Spider had been there for a few months before something terrible happened. I was never told whether it was something terrible he did or something terrible that was done to him. I'm referring to him in the third person, Mr. Spider, because I sincerely don't believe you're the same man. I'm sure you're the same man with the mask off. But Mr. Spider, as was, paid far too much attention to the habits of Dr. Henry Jekyll. and was far too fascinated by the transition of a genteel and polite man who might be found in a salon of a visiting viscount into a masked vigilante. I think he dove too deeply into this world of yours too fast. Paid the price. So when I saw you and Mr. Slide coming into the Aventine a few months ago, as I say, I knew something had gone wrong. Because there's no other reason Madam Whisper would go back on her word to keep you out of it. Something bad must be happening that needed you.
Well, she didn't tell us what it was. And it got Slide killed.
I thought it might have done. I'm sorry about that.
Can't be helped now.
There are some who'd say he's better off now.
He was better off before he came back.
Can't deny that. I'm sorry that you weren't given the full truth before you were asked to join. I'm sure she had her reasons, but no one could ever know what they were.
It was something of a shock.
Well, is it for you the same as it's been for us? That we can't actively arm ourselves. It's all about discovery. You had Jekyll's lab. We feels like everything is uncovered at a piecemeal pace. That we're on the back foot. We aren't prepared properly to fight.
Madam Whisper so liked to control things. She had this idea. That none of you would know each other's names. Because if there was one thing she knew, it was that there were plenty of enemies out there who could reach in and find you, find your names. Because while we were the first gentlemen strangers, or rather they were, we were not the first group of vigilantes that Madam Whisper had assembled. The concept of the strangers was that no matter what, no matter how closely they worked together, if one of them was compromised, they couldn't reveal anything. And so, yes, she did like to place the truth into compartments away from other pieces of truth. I think it was the resentment of that that drove Jekyll and Mr. Haunt to recruit Mr. Slide and Mr. Spider, to add people that would be under them, that would receive the truth distilled and titrated into them.
Do you mean to say that they recruited us, not Madame Whisper?
Oh, Madam Whisper would have, of course, agreed to it, but I mean that...
That we were chosen by Haunt and by Jekyll?
Yes. There are some things, Mr. Spider, that I feel I can't say. Dr. Jekyll was acquainted with persons you might know. And Mr. Haunt had met Mr. Slide at some gambling den or other.
They knew each other. That makes so much more sense now.
Mr. Slide was a bit of a rake. He was an expert at having cards in his hand that might once have been not on the table. And Mr. Haunt admired the instinct.
That was him.
Well,
that has solved a conundrum I was pondering as to why he'd taken it so personally.
Mr. Slide's death.
Haunt found me. He blames me for what happened. He knew me.
That is not good news.
No. You can see now why it's made me a little uncomfortable about my personal space. A man of those talents deciding that it's my day to die have done me I have been somewhat concerned about his vendetta against me.
Mr. Haunt's vendetta was against Madame Whisper.
Yes, but news of her death doesn't seem to have called him off.
No. His wrath will not be satisfied until there are not and never again will be gentlemen strangers. And he's not petty. He doesn't need to be the one with the knife at your throat. If there's a way that he can see you all hanging, he'll work with anyone to see it happen. Well, I feel quite awkward. I'd always known that when this conversation happened, and that it had to happen eventually, there'd be no good news in it, but I am surprised that Mr. Haunt is still a factor. I'd assumed he'd long gone by now.
Give me, I would have told you sooner, but I didn't know you were acquainted.
No, I have no business knowing anything one way or the other, but I thought he had escaped, and I thought he'd use his escape to get somewhere truly far away. Reinventing himself as a New York banker or something. A Canadian fur trapper. Anything. Far away, across an ocean. The only way to really get away from a memory like Madame Whisper. To think that they breathe the same air, well, metaphorically. Very strange. He'll have always known where she was.
Perhaps there's a degree of cowardice. He didn't think he could fight her. He knows he can fight us.
I would not personally make that assessment, no. I would say watch your backs, but don't make an obsession out of it. Expect the unexpected.
Oh, given that we're wanted for treason, I have come to expect that, yes.
I mean, don't plan to see him coming.
No, that's the reason why I didn't enter into a blind panic at your arrival at the Millennium Club. He wouldn't do something so obvious as pretend to be you.
But if I were Madam Whisper, I wouldn't leave the Millennium Club either, would I? That can't still be up after her death, surely.
Do you think Horn can't return?
Do you still use the ravens?
Yes.
God in heaven. He might not be able to. He might not even remember where the Millennium Club is.
Yet you knew.
It never worked on me. None of it. If I passed you in the street, Mr. Spider, in your everyday clothes, I'd know exactly who you were.
Comforting.
Don't worry. I couldn't care less, as long as you don't owe me too much for the bar.
I like to think the strangers have always paid their tab.
When Madam Whisper was in charge, the funds seemed boundless. She got them from overseas somewhere. I never inquired because as I said before, quite value my life.
Well, as Hound said, we haven't inherited her talents or attributes.
You've come this far. I suppose it's too late for me to give you the advice to know how far you can't go and stop before you get there, but if you have a second chance to, well, you don't have the same retirement option you had before with Madam Whisper gone, but you can retire before that's necessary.
Well, given that I'm already on my second chance, Mr. Hyde, feels like too little too late.
You'll know.
But I must remonstrate with you for being so misleading. You said that when we sat down here to have this conversation, there would be no good news of it, but our reinstation at the Aventine is certainly cause for celebration.
Well, I am grateful for you coming. It shows trust.
Grateful for the invitation. It is good to have at least one person who doesn't want us dead in all of London.
Well, unlike Mr. Haunt, I don't often conceal myself, particularly in regards to my intentions as to whether anyone's welcome, so believe me, you'll be perfectly aware when that invitation is revoked. Just, don't hammer away at the piano when you get a little squiffy. I can't afford to have the thing restrung. Right, tonight, your drinks are on the house. As a welcome present.
Too kind.
Least I can do. But I think I have to get back to work, my friends.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for this.
Well, you're owed the truth even if I don't think it'll be particularly comforting for you.
It rarely is. Mr. Spider will pick up his drink, toast Mr. Hyde, and head back to the table. He's not waiting for the others, so if they want to talk, they're always allowed to.
Okay. So yeah, you make your way back down to your usual table. Hyde gets back behind the bar and resumes his job. And you have a reasonably ordinary evening. The door opens with a little bit of vigour. Not force, but, you know, a little bit of... Maybe someone thought the hinges were less sensitive than they were, that sort of thing. Enough to make you look up. And you see an unwelcome sight. You see a man who normally travels in a pair. Mr. Thorne or Mr. Wynne looks a little bit like he's had a long day at the office and hasn't had time to straighten things up. He's got his head down. He looks up briefly. You can see a look of relief on his face when he catches that you are there. He scoots right over. Gentlemen.
Evening. You can take
We
a
don't-
seat if you wish.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that you're here. Right. Now, it's all in here. Well, no, it's not all in here. This is almost nothing. It's everything I could get out. It's everything I could get out of the office. It should be enough for you to do what you need to do. If it hasn't, I know it's gone too far, but it doesn't have to go any further.
I'm afraid, sir, we're going to need you to explain yourself.
I know, but there's not much time. I need to get away from here.
Then explain quickly.
He's off. You think that to get here, he's had a couple of drinks. He's just not. Also, he's visibly, panicking. And a combination of those two things. He's just not at all the same person.
Mr. Spider leans forward and then realizes sort of that once again he's not the best person for this, and will sort of turn to the side to make space for Lurk and Leech and potentially Hound, because talking to distressed man, he's just not going to be at his best.
Contrary to that, Hound's immediate body language is it's I say contrary, it's very similar. Hound does like a full-on lean back, hands behind his head, as someone that has completely acknowledged I don't have the eloquence to navigate this situation.
Yeah.
So
We look at our cheerful American.
Mr. Lurk is also not very good at talking to people. I don't know that any of us are good at talking to people. This is great.
It is
I
really
can't
good.
do that. I've got a literal plague mask on. That is not helpful.
Tell me why you have come, peasant.
What is the matter? You can tell me.
I'm
I
here
think-
for you, buddy.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Lurk, and this is maybe not the best way to do this, but it's what he's going to do, is going to go full, like, interrogation mode,
Mhm.
like bad cop kind of vibes. Like, yeah, you better, explain what's going on right now. We have welcomed you to our table, and you have to do this or we're going to kick you out.
You turn on that side of the security guard that is the obstruction side. What are you doing here? Do you have a right to be here? You've got 10 seconds to explain yourself, or
Yeah.
pick you up and throw you. Right. Perfect.
I like that because Mr. Hound has leaned back. He's accidentally doing good cop. He's just like chill cop.
And Mr. Hound's giving off chill cop that might sort of go a bit violent any minute.
there's no chill cops, kids.
There's no.
It's all cops.
Kids.
The gentlemen strangers say a cab.
ACAB partly includes Nathaniel Breaker.
Hey!
He's a civil servant of the British government. It definitely does.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. It's all. I know it's a lot. I shouldn't have left it this long, and I look. I can't meaningfully apologize for the Lambeth Palace thing. It doesn't matter now. It's in the past. There's nothing I can do about it. I didn't want to do it. But he was sure it was the only way to stop you. You can't let it, because in a week. It was a week. It'll be within a week. In a week, the storm will be gone. But before then, it might not be too late. You've got the map. Now, don't be overwhelmed by the map. I've marked the ones you need, but you need to hit all of them, at which point there is a sharp crack, and a red stain rolls out from the man's heart, and he slumps, eyes open, onto the table. Because 3 gunmen have entered the bar. One of them is striding towards you, pistol cocked. The other 2 have been intercepted by Mr. Hyde. What do you do?
All right.
Wait a minute. Now, obviously, there's quite a lot going on that Mr. Lurk, Mr. Spider, Mr. Leech, and Mr. Hound aren't paying attention to, because the thing you pay attention to in this situation is the guy with the pistol. But what we in the audience are paying attention to is the 4-segment clock. Tick,
Oh, for fuck's sake.
tick, tick. Anyway, what do you do?
Hate that.
That's
I
Okay.
think Mr. Lurk is going like full bodyguard mode. Like there is suddenly a dead body in front of me. I need to get between the rest of the patrons in this place and that dead body to just keep things separate so we can deal with that. And then I think also sort of 2 birds, 1 stone, like he will get in between the group and the gunmen as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go, Iz, or?
No, you go.
Leech has gone full military combat mode. And they've just seen someone shot in front of them. Their first instinct is to help the person shot in front of them. That's what they're trying to do.
Yep.
So I feel like they would have leapt over the table at that point.
Yeah.
Onto one of the pair, whoever is in front of us. And to try and help to stop the bleeding, or it's pretty obvious he's not in a great position, but it will be to jump over and try and move, like try and get him between the gunman and
Yeah,
him.
I mean, even if the odds are very good that all you're doing is verifying that he's dead, the time to act is now, because he doesn't have a second to spare. So yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the one.
He brought a case with him.
He did. It's in his lap.
So I think Mr. Spider is going to sort of, he was off to the side. He's going to stand up with the shock of the action. Seem to be helping Mr. Leech sort of pull this figure down to the floor or off the chair or whatever it is that Leech is doing to try and help, and in doing so slip the case off his lap to Mr. Spider's side in his offhand. But he's doing it in a kind of no, let's get you off.
Yeah, you're making use of the fact that Mr. Lurk is trying to draw the attention of the.
He's taking advantage of the chaos of the situation, but attempting to make himself appear not too much of a threat. He's doing the opposite of a Mr. Lurk.
So, Mr. Leech, as a physiker, I believe you can use Tinker as a skill to perform anything from first aid to
Whoa.
surgery, actually, I think. But yeah, you can Tinker. You can study to assess, but to be honest with you, the Tinker in this case has got to include a. I'm not looking at the chat because it's very difficult. But Janara, Bowman, I love you both, and I am super appreciative that you're both in the audience. And Janara, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, and I'm so glad that you're catching up with Gentlemen Strangers. Anyway, enough of my embarrassment. Tinker, I think, will include the studying the inspection element. Really, mostly, I imagine what you're doing is putting pressure on the wound to stop blood loss. So
That'll be the one. Checking pulse. Putting them. Mainly it would be stopping a thing, but putting them probably under the table. It's harder to shoot under
okay. You're trying to get them into a sheltered place. Yeah, roll me a Tinker. Let's see what we can get accomplished.
Risky or?
It is risky. Yeah. 0 effect.
Okay. Six.
So this is good actually that you rolled a 6. You are absolutely confident that you have performed the best emergency first aid you could do in the circumstances, but when you lay your hand over the wound, you grab like a bar napkin just to something to soak, you press your hand in just to put some pressure on. There's unquestionably no pulse.
All right.
Mr. Hound.
My first instinct is to draw one of my 2 pistols I always have on me. I don't know if it will be behind the bar or behind a pillar where I can get to a point of cover, because my instinct isn't to put myself between the gunman and the group. My instinct is to put a solid object between the gunman and myself. I think he also would have looked towards the case too, and kind of seeing Leech and Spider and kind of like Leech's assessment. He's just going to bark at them, run, as he takes cover.
So yeah, the gunman is blasting. I think Mr. Leech and Mr. Lurk, I think that you are going to take some fire. Mr. Leech partly just because you are where the primary target was and that, but Mr. Lurk obviously because you sort of presented yourself mostly. So yeah, you take some fire. Obviously you're welcome to resist that. I think it will be level 2 harm. So you're welcome to attempt to resist that. If you don't attempt to resist it, you will automatically resist it if you choose to.
Would this count as... Could I expend my special armor to resist a consequence from detection? Have I been detected?
GM, if you think about it, what I did was to be completely undetected as I approached the gunman. That was basically what I described.
You ever heard of hiding in plain sight?
That's me.
I genuinely thought
not?
Zoe had asked for something so nakedly outrageous that she'd just resigned on the spot. I'll see myself out, she said.
Bye, Zoe. It's been great role playing with you.
I mean, you can be detected not from stealth. What am I doing now if not being detected?
I mean, why don't you could, I mean, the other half of the shadow ability is to push yourself with proof athletics. Couldn't you use that to dive out of the way?
I could.
I don't want to.
I mean, if you don't want, I just don't think this is detection.
Yeah, I think, can I... All right, so what is involved in... What's the word from this? Resisting.
Well, if you just want to resist, then you tell me that you resist, and then you roll prowess, and you spend an amount of stress. But you can use your special armor with the shadow ability to perform a feat of athletics. You have those choices.
I think... Ugh, shit. You know what? No, I'm just gonna take it. I think I would rather, because I worry that if I dive out of the way, that I will then not be protecting the people that that's what I'm trying to do, is protect them.
Okay.
And if I dive out of the way, I will not be doing that.
Yeah, no, for sure. What kind of bodyguard gets out of the way?
Are you wearing your Mr. Lurk gear? Is your coat some sort of armor? I'm talking as if we have load. I don't know if we have load, but like...
Well, the thing is that even a way of interpreting the vigilante gear rule is that even when you don't have load, you always have +2 load. So you could tell me that you spend your 2 load on some body armor underneath your coat. I think that's legitimate if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that he's paranoid enough that, yeah, he would be wearing body armor
also
most
because,
of the time.
Honestly, I think having thickened clothes and like putting yourself between a gunman and your target is a sort of bodyguard thing to do.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
remember my training.
That's fine. So, I'll tick you off some armor, and it's a level 1. It becomes a level 1 wound. A light gunshot. What a strange phrase that is. Essentially, it's going to stop bleeding eventually on its own. Like, it's not a horrible thing. Mr. Leech, what do you like to do about this bullet situation you find yourself in?
I would like to resist this. I don't fancy it.
No.
No. I'm
Yeah.
already quite hurt.
Yeah. Roll prowess.
Prowess, yes. Okay, submit.
Oh yeah. So you spend 2 stress.
Okay, cool.
And that turns it down. Oh God, you already have a bullet wound.
What's another? Am I right?
Oh God.
If it goes in the same hole, it's the same wound.
It
Yeah,
just makes
true.
it worse somehow. Oh, and you got level 2 harm clobbered, which I find very fun. I guess I'm gonna give you light gunshot. Or sunshot, as I just wrote for some reason. Did you spend 2 stress on your character sheet?
I did, yeah, I just put it
Good,
on.
good. Otherwise, I'd have just raised it to almost full, and I didn't want to do that. Okay, so
Please no.
over to you.
To who? Me? What?
I am
all
going
of you.
to run away.
Yeah.
Mr. Spider, who has... I think Mr. Spider is going to take advantage of the fact that the gunman opened fire on Leech and not him
You are.
to just pull back in an absolute like crouching start, dead sprint. Mr. Spider has been kind of wired and coiled up about this whole situation for weeks, and I think he's finally just exploding back to the Millennium Club.
Yeah.
We made this walk in half an hour, he's going to do it in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, Leech is also going to get the freak out of there.
Yeah, you're absolutely certain. Nothing you can do.
The dude's dead. What can I do?
100%.
Exactly.
And I've just been
I'm
shot,
gonna kick off one of my special abilities, take 2 stress, and use my sharpshooter ability for unleashing a barrage of rapid fire to suppress the energy and enemy.
We love that. You also are pushing yourself, and as a result, you can choose to add a bonus die or upgrade the effect level. You're trying to suppress the enemy. So I guess this is possibly command. You're trying to get them to duck and stop shooting.
I would. I don't want that to be. I can't remember which is gun.
Gun is normally hunt if you're trying to shoot to harm. But the action you're trying to get is for him to stop going. Let's have a look. Let me read hunt, because I can tell you'd love to roll actual dice. I don't know. There's an argument that the manipulation of a target via ranged combat. Do you know what? I'm having a really nice weekend, Mike. So the whims of my mood have said you can roll hunt for this, with either a bonus die or increased effect, whatever you'd like.
I'll take that increased effect, please.
Always good.
So what's my position?
You are in a risky position.
Excellent. And a great effect?
Yes.
Awesome. What?
Okay.
That's a 3 and a 2.
It's a 3 and a 2. So, there's something very driven about these assailants. I think you wing this guy, and I think he flinches back a little, but all he does in return is level the pistol at you and squeeze the trigger a couple of times. So you will take level 2 harm, bleeding wound.
I don't want to.
You don't want to.
Don't want to.
You're welcome to resist that. Actually, no, I don't think you can.
Oh.
Because you have a full level 1 harm track.
Oh. But I'm tough as nails. Penalties from harm are 1 level less severe.
Yes.
I don't know what that does.
it means that you will take it as level 2 harm, but behave as if it's level 1 harm.
Okay. I guess no. You know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that. No, wait. Hold on. Why don't I? I've got load. I could just say I've had armor, and I could just expend the armor on it, like the game allows us to do.
Like Mr Lurk did.
Like Mr. Lurk did. Oh no, my armor. That's going to be how I deal with that.
He's a professional, ladies and gentlemen.
He is. He's more professional at shooting than getting shot at, in fairness.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know this is what I've been doing to people.
This is horrid.
Oh my god! Why didn't anyone tell me?
Is this? My goodness, this really hurts.
Owie!
I love the idea that because although you've been told that the Aventine's safe, at least 2 of you have strapped on body armor before coming, just in case that's what it comes to. Yeah, I can't be bothered to figure out how to force this into a level 1 slot it can't force into. So it's your lucky day. Your armor is very effective, and fully absorbs the blow. Zoe is feeling a little bit like, what the hell? As well you should. You can take it up with Mike. I'll dox him for you. So, okay, I'm going to Mr. Lurk. You are in position. You've heroically taken a shot, but there you stand.
I think that I am going to use. I know that he didn't roll very well to do suppressing fire, but I think I would like to use that opportunity to also run. But I think as I'm doing that, I'm gonna like look back and check in and be like, "You all right? You need backup? Are you coming?" To Mr. Hound.
Oh yeah, I'm going to join you.
Okay. All right. Then I will continue.
I'll be there in a second.
Great. Then I will follow. I assume we're heading to the tunnel to GTFO.
Because you are under fire, I will ask for a prowl.
Oh, I'm good at those. Okay, position risky.
I'm going to say desperate. Which is good. You get an experience point.
Something for, yeah. Okay. Desperate. Standard.
Yeah.
Effect.
Yep.
Okay. No bonus dice. That's a 6 and a 5.
Fantastic. So, because it was desperate position, I think you will take a glancing blow. I think what I would suggest. You already have 2 bullet wounds. I think I'm just going to upgrade one of them to just you've been shot, if that's okay.
No, it's not okay, actually.
Well, I mean, I did ask, so
yeah, as discussed, it really hurts.
I have to respect your answer, even if I don't agree with it. Don't debate bro me out of being shot. Odd thing to say. Right, okay. I'm such a nice guy, Zoe. I'm 1-1 nice guy. So, yeah, Mr. Hound. Let me just tick up this ticking clock to 3 segments out of 4.
I'm going to start backpedaling, but I don't particularly want us to be followed. So I'm going to keep up the suppressive fire.
Okay.
And the idea of the moment we're out of sight, I can just leg it, get into the tunnel. They won't necessarily know where to look. And then fuck everything else that's going on in here. We'll be able to flee.
Fantastic. Yeah, I guess give me a hunt roll again. In for a penny.
What? 2 and a 4.
Fantastic. It controlled position. I don't know why that's true.
I'm changing my ways. I'm no longer a gunman.
You're changing your ways, and he knows that. He respects your empathy.
I'm apologizing as I'm John Woo backwards pedaling.
Yeah.
Mr. Hound is our group's empath, so
Yeah.
Oh, I see. He's an IMTP, so he's like, I'm just trying to relate to you. That's
he's
a really,
shooting
that's a
at
really
these guys
good
going, I can
leadership
tell
type.
you're really annoyed with us.
I think we've both got apologies to make.
We live in a kyriarchy, and this is toxic masculinity. I mean, it's not. It's toxic something. So I was actually a desperate position. So take mark XP in your insight track, and you're not getting away. I am going to wound you this time.
Yeah, I can't stop you. I've pulled my bullshit last time I did this, and it barely flew in.
You know what?
Yeah.
Matey chap.
Yeah, friend. Hey, buddy.
Your choice is this. It's level 2 harm, which is going to have to upgrade to level 3 harm unless you resist it.
Oh.
The resist. Oh wait a second. No, hang on. I was looking at the wrong character sheet. Let me. I'm still right. No, I'm still right.
You're still right.
I'm still right. I'm still right. You've all been shot, so it didn't matter. I was looking at the wrong character sheet. You've got less stress than the person whose character sheet I was looking at.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I am going to attempt to resist this.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very funny if I don't.
Yeah, prowess to resist.
Cool. 6 and a 2.
Fantastic. So yeah, you resist that without spending any stress, which is
hold on. 6 stress minus that. Yeah. Okay,
yep.
yeah.
You resist not spending any stress, so it's another wing shot that, you know, it hurts, but you're already on the way. You've got momentum behind you, and you have successfully suppressed, so he's not going to be able to follow because you've actually managed to get him to flinch and duck behind something. By the time you're in the secret tunnel, you'll be well away. So you all make your way hurriedly into the secret area of the cellar and out. And just as you close the hatch into the secret tunnel, sealing it from the underside, you hear a rush of noise and screams as the clock ticks to 4, and tick, tick, tick becomes tick, 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 boom.
Good.
Hi, Mr. Hyde. Thanks for inviting us to your pub. Sorry we got blown up.
I don't think there's much of Mr. Hyde to apologise to.
Nevertheless, Mr. Spider is running.
Yep, you just continue back to the Millennium.
Yep.
Momentary reflection of how many seconds away I was from being in that. Then a light jog while bleeding profusely to the Millennium Club. Standard Saturday night shit.
Given that it's a bit of a long run, maybe about 5-10 minutes out from the Millennium, the Aventine, when confident we're not being pursued at this point, Mr. Spider will at the very least double back enough to ensure the others have a little support. But I don't think we'll be stopping until we get to the Millennium Club.
No.
Does Hound have a level 3 wound? Okay.
Like, looking at him, he looks like he's barely being grazed. The way he's moving, he looks like he's been barely grazed, apart from the amount of blood that is coming out of him.
Sus. I mean,
very sus.
I feel like Leech would pick up on that though, because Leech knows how. Like,
you've definitely seen people get shot before.
I feel like Leech would try and help, but also Leech is pretty ouches as well.
Get him back
Like
to the
he-
club.
Do
He
we
isn't going to. Yeah, Zoe.
do we think it's worth it to try and seal this tunnel?
No.
I
I don't-
think it's been sealed for a bit.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone left to follow us.
I did not think of it that way, but you're probably right. I guess they were in there when it exploded. You're right. Okay.
Jesus.
All right, then let's go.
You scamper your way back to. That's a terrible word to use under these circumstances.
Yeah.
You
We scamper away from the horrible explosion.
You daintily trip your way back to the. You both did these weird hand gestures. I really look at you all, brilliant.
That's like my squirrel impression of
Yeah,
scampering.
you scamper like a woodland critter all the way back to your Millennium Club,
That's what we call it.
and up into the cellar. You have left a trail of blood, but as you rightly observe, I mean, for who?
Yeah, if we get the chance to, probably at some point over the next few days or whatever, Leech will be out there with a bottle of hydrogen peroxide and a broom.
I think the rats will take care of it.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think that's how
I think we have vampire rats.
I don't think that's how any of that works.
It's how you
Well,
might
yeah,
get
rats-
vampire rats. as a
Rats
result.
lick
Vampire.
blood off of the ground, for sure. Yeah.
Slugs,
Mhm.
rats.
Slugs and rats. Yeah.
That's just not right.
Come on, can we kick Ash out of the group?
It's morally wrong.
Nevertheless, I think when Mr. Spider gets through the door, and I guess we get up to the kitchen, which is sort of where we stop what we're doing, Mr. Spider is going to then turn around to the injured people and just suddenly realize how much blood there is everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
Hound, you're bleeding.
A lot.
Everyone's bleeding. Right, we need to put pressure on wounds.
Sit down then, for heaven's sake.
It's a half sit, half tumble into the chair.
So, Mr. Leech, whom are you attending first?
Myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Put your own oxygen mask on first.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess what I'm asking for is a tinker roll.
Yeah. Grabbing various towels and stuff that I imagine are in the position. What position are we going here?
Well, you're in controlled position. Oh, actually, you are operating on yourself. Risky position. Let's add that to the fire.
Standard effect.
I don't see why not. Yeah, standard effect.
Cool. Boom. All right. 5.
5. Very nice. Okay.
Been here, done this.
Yes. The good news is the
I
good
hate
news.
this is not the first time. she's
Yeah,
done-
honestly.
So, this is in reality the successes on these checks. The actual success will manifest in a couple of days.
Okay.
You're setting yourself up with patching and stitching to rest for a couple of days. So the good news is you rolled 5. You already had 3 on your healing progress clock. So you gain 2 segments, filling up 1 clock and starting another. Your level 1 bullet wound is gone. Will be gone in a couple of days. Your level 2 clobbered becomes level 1 bruised, and your level 2 shot becomes level 1 bullet wound. So that's very successful. Yeah, that's great.
I think in the meantime, Spider is going to have run up to his study, which is on the first floor, and is going to be shouting for Amelia. He throws the case under his bed, slams the door closed, and then shouts for Amelia again, and then goes back downstairs.
Do we get the roll to see if Amelia's even here?
Yep, Luke
Yeah.
can roll. But
Incredible.
he is most importantly not looking. He is just the run. Amelia! Run back downstairs.
Odds, I'm afraid she's not here.
Incredible. Devastating news for all of us.
She's our responsible adult.
No.
I think that because Mr. Lurk only has a light gunshot, which, as we know, is like nothing.
He's American. He's used to it.
Yeah, he's like a cowboy.
Yeah.
We're just gonna move past that one.
He's a red redemption.
He's too red for this dead redemption.
Oh.
He will be helping as much as he can because he's okay.
I mean, I think, like, you know, if you're physically there, you're taking orders from Mr. Leech. I'm happy to have that. You know, giving Mr. Leech a. If Mr. Lurk is willing to spend a stress, then that will certainly be enough to assist Mr. Leech and give him a bonus die. That's fine with me, because you are really doing first aid, and like Mr. Lurk can definitely do things like put on a bandage and hold.
His wife is a nurse. I'm sure. He's big
and strong. He can help with tourniquets and stuff.
Yeah.
Holding things.
Yeah, holding things. Boiling water. No one's sure what that's for, but he might be able to do it. Okay, whom do you treat next?
It'll be Hound.
Yeah, Hound is more made of external blood than internal blood at this particular point of his life.
Yeah. Cool. Let's do that. Well, are we at risky still, or?
No, because you're not operating on yourself, so we'll just call this controlled. Standard.
You know in your mind, if you mess up, it's not going to hurt.
Controlled standard, and you can have your choice of a bonus die or increased effect from Mr. Lurk's assistance.
We'll have a bonus die.
Okay.
Let's do that. Just in case. Thank God, in case.
Amelia should be on a date with Mr. Cutter Bowman. I agree completely. That's everyone's ship. That's the ship. We all love it.
We all agree.
So, 5 controlled position standard effect. The excellent news for Mr. Hound, of course, is that he also already had 3 progress ticks on his healing clock. So finally, again, it'll be after a few days. This will take effect. I'm going to be even nicer to Mike than I normally am.
Oh,
and I'm
you
normally
are very nice to Mike.
Horrible to him.
Always.
You are lovely.
I am going to coalesce shot and shot again into one thing for you, as well as moving.
I was shot in the same place.
This guy was a marksman. Okay. His grouping was just superb. So yeah, you will eventually heal down to only having 1 level 1 harm, which is bullet wound.
And Spider's fine.
Spider
scampered.
Spider's actually suspiciously fine, having neither harm nor stress.
Yeah, Mr. Spider will have run back in though, and like, while he is not helping this specific situation, like, he is uncharacteristically involved. Like, he is, you know, moving things out of the way. You know, you put a dish to the side and you're trying to get it out of your space. He's moving things to the counter and like, assisting in that way. And I think when you are done and Mr. Hound is sort of sitting back in his chair and he's bandaged and his shirt's all torn up because, you know, you had to get that off him and make sure he had no bullet fragments in him, and everyone's kind of in that quiet space, he is going to pour a very large glass of brandy for Mr. Hound.
I was going to say, I think Leech would probably say, like, there is some very strong high alcohol in the lab.
Yeah, but Mr. Spider wants to pour a glass of alcohol for Mr. Hound that isn't going to make him blind.
Oh, isn't that always the... Okay.
Oh no.
I'm trying to arrive.
The curse of Mr. Hound!
Oh, I did arrive, and then I turned the camera off again. I got overzealous and undid my success.
Like, Mr. Spider has brought out quite a nice bottle of brandy.
Like, it's lost on Hound for multiple reasons. One being he's shot to shit, another being he can't read. So
no, but it looks fancy. You can tell it looks fancy, and it doesn't taste like petrol.
It tastes as much not like petrol as brandy ever tastes, I suppose.
Yeah, but Mr. Hound is a man of drink, so he's not like you, who all alcohol smells and tastes like petrol.
There will be an appreciative, if blurry, raising of the glass, and then a very, very deep swig.
I am a connoisseur of tea.
You're a connoisseur of many things, just not petrol.
Not of petrol, no.
And then I think Mr. Spider looks like he's going to pour himself a drink. Just swigs it from the bottle.
Yeah.
And, like, you can see he's got his sleeves rolled up. He actually looks kind of disheveled for the situation. He just takes a swig, and then he just leaves.
Okay.
I think once we've finished patching up Mr. Hound, Mr. Lurk will attempt to just, he has like a hole in
sure,
his
yeah.
abdomen.
Yeah.
So he's gonna just patch that up a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's
well,
fine.
I can give
He's
you
fine.
like verbal instructions. From...
Yeah, he can handle it himself.
Yeah, absolutely. One
My
has
life
to
is in
assume that
theirs.
one has to assume that bodyguarding involves at least a little bit of first aid, right? Great.
The only first aid I know is, I'll fetch a brandy.
So some time passes while you all wait for your various impromptu anesthetics and patchings up to take effect. I'm assuming at some point you all get back together and talk about how well everything went. Our first night out in ages, and you take me to this on fire bar.
It's a cool concept. Anyway.
Don't take your fiancé to an on-fire bar, Ashley.
I don't think it's really commercially viable.
Nevertheless.
Are there like cocktails that people like light on fire as like...
Yeah, but if it goes from an on-fire cocktail to an on-fire bar, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. Maybe you were drinking petrol.
Petrol connoisseur. Where do they go? Anyway.
Dying breed.
Well, what Mr. Spider is going to do is, if the three of them are talking about what a fun night out they had, he is... Well, as soon as he has settled his nerves, he is going for that briefcase. Like, so he has probably spent the last few days looking at what's inside.
So not much. But you at last there is an unsealed, addressed but not stamped letter. If you open that, do you open that or do you leave it be?
I'm inspecting everything.
In which case you finally know which of them it was. It was Mr. Thorne, because the letter is addressed to Mr. Wynne.
Rip Mr. Thorne.
And it reads, Dear Mr. Wynne, I regret that after following your advice to consider seriously my position on our work, my reservations remain in place. And as our own master has so often said, if one cannot tolerate a thing, one must with all one's power oppose it. I pray both you and he will forgive me. With regret that we shall not see one another again, I remain, if no longer your partner, your friend, Thomas.
Seems to be the day for it.
So I think when we were talking, he said something about a map, and something about a map. Is there a map in there?
There is. There is a map. It is a rather detailed street map of the inner region of London. Detailed in that it shows the names of even quite minor streets. It's quite large. You unfold it, and it's a very considerable document. There are a number of locations which are circled in black ink, and some which have an asterisk in red next to them. Very likely the 12 that Mr. Thorne mentioned. Anyone who is inspecting the map, which is obviously anything up to all of you, perfectly welcome to make a study check to discern any kinds of insights or patterns.
Yes.
Depending upon your particular sensibilities, you might get slightly different information from each other.
Controlled standard?
Controlled standard. 5 from Mr. Hound.
Leech is useless. Don't
Oh,
roll
a
for it.
critical from Mr. Spider.
Just as Lucas descends into the void.
He leaves us.
Oh, I've
with-
become a bin again, have I?
You are. You're
Those
our
dice
bin.
are too high.
Look, I'm just relieved that it doesn't count as me leaving the call, because if it
Yeah.
did that, all the faces would rearrange on the screen.
Yeah, at the very least, we get
Can't.
trashy for a bit, and that's nice.
We get
Trashy's
trashy,
nice.
and then we get like a little camera
It's
thing.
it's
and then...
Pride trashy,
Oh.
but unlike other groups at Pride, ours doesn't expire on July the 1st. We're always a proud bunch of gays.
We're gays.
Gays.
Can I roll with limited effect because I'm
Can
American?
I opt out of Pride?
No, actually, I thought she was going to say, can I be gays?
It's just the way
you
we're going,
can't
like
be
gays, and then I
Zoe,
continue to roleplay.
two points.
No, you're the best of
Be
them.
as gays as you like. Do as many crimes as you like. We obviously don't
Hell
endorse
yeah.
any illegal activity officially, but you know.
Unless it's
I
cool.
rolled 2 5s, even though I
Nice.
don't know anything about anything.
I mean, you were well, you did. You are welcome to. I mean, you have rolled at limited effect. I guess that makes a lot of sense. Your perspective on London is very much sort of, this is the situation I'm in the place that I'm in. It hasn't necessarily yet evolved into an internal image of the city as a whole. So I like that. Players that impose penalties on themselves always garner my respect. But nevertheless, you were rewarded for your virtue with a clear success. So, Mr. Lurk, from your perspective, being that of someone who doesn't have a strong map of the city in his head, or a strong sort of, you can't look at a street map and immediately picture where it is in the real world, the thing that I think you grasp pretty quickly is the ubiquity of these circled places. When I say there's no pattern to their placement, I don't mean you detect no pattern to their placement. You are looking at points on a map that are not uniformly placed. That would be a pattern, but there are no clusters. There are no gaps. It seems fairly organic. And you do know from having lived here that London is one of those cities where there is no street plan. You know, London is the iconic European city. There's no blocks, there's no grid. And so this looks as organic as can be. Mr. Leech, honestly, you thought this was Bedford for a while.
I'm useless, apparently.
Mr. Hound, your insight on this is you have done work at some of these sites before, because a great many of them are churches. So you have been to many of these places in your professional capacity, as a maintainer of graveyards. Mr. Spider.
I can't believe I got a crit on a study roll. It's the most Mr. Spider
It
thing
is
that
the
could possibly
most
happen.
Spider thing. So, your eye is drawn in a more forensic way. First of all, you're the only person who takes note of the fact that this map has been given a title written in the same black ink as the site's circled. It simply says Unveiling. You pay attention first to all of the circled sites before you narrow in on the ones that have the asterisks. You notice, as Mr. Hound does, that many of them are indeed quite old churches. They're not all churches. Some of them are buildings that happen to be in a neo-Gothic style, but that aren't actually medieval churches. And then you click. You don't know all of these buildings off by heart. But once you notice a couple of the ones that you know aren't churches, it clicks instantly. And you make a bet. You would mortgage a small business that every one of the buildings circled has at least one steeple. It is the
Ah.
it is the thing that all of the non-church buildings have in common. They're all in this neo-Gothic style, which became popular during the late 18th, 19th century as Britain rejected the neoclassical Republican architecture of France and America and went, no, we're going to go super medieval. And that's why the Palace of Westminster looks like it was built in the 14th century, even though it's actually relatively new.
It's a spiky building.
It's a very spiky building, just as a matter of fact, we don't want our political building to look like marbled halls. And yeah, that's the thing that you immediately, that's it. Every one of these buildings is steepled.
I like to think that maybe someone was speculating about like whether there's something in the cellars underneath all these buildings, or whether there's a because some of them are crypts, whether the old churches have crypts, and Mr. Spider just goes, no, we should be looking up.
Yeah. And then you pass to the it's really pelting it down out here. We're having a hell of a heckin' storm.
Rain.
There it is, the
Just moved
storm.
past me on
There,
you guys.
there it is.
Then
the rain.
you narrow your focus to the sites that are marked with the red asterisks, of which there are indeed 12. Using that sort of technique where you try to shut out the unasterisk ones just to see them on their own, then you try to see them with the overall pattern. You shift your perspective a few times. The 12 seem to represent they have some relationship with each other. They are sort of consecutive to each other. If you were to draw a line from one to the other, you wouldn't intersect another line. They sort of seem to represent what would be a fissure in the map. If you erased these 12 and all of the black circles that were within those 12, you'd have a sort of a fissure over the central area of the city where no sites were marked. That might be what Thorne was getting at.
Moses Kaplan. The power of electricity. We know that this storm was not entirely natural. Raging for a week, did he say?
He said it would rage for a further week.
They're doing something to harness the power of this storm.
You got a critical.
I did.
So I will reveal first of all there is a third item. There is a third item in the briefcase, just because what I'm about to say will seem more exciting than that. But there is a third article in the briefcase, which is a pocket diary. It's a date book. As you say this out loud, do I take it by your employment of Mr. Spider's voice?
Oh, yes.
You
He's using it out loud.
remember that the construction company, A. Graceling and Company, received a large contract from the City of London to perform certain maintenance works upon various of its older, and therefore steepled, churches.
Mr. Spider looks briefly. He's musing out loud, and then he stops in that way that he does when he's suddenly thinking too hard to sort of mask his expression.
Yeah, the kind of, I'm about to leave the room because I thought of something, but I'm not going to voice it.
Yeah, it's a very obnoxious thing he does. But instead, he goes for the briefcase and is going to pick up the date book.
Yeah, you make me a study as you inspect it.
I will. Can I push myself on this?
There's no reason you can't at all. You're trying to spot things. You're trying to look at it forensically, spot patterns and so forth.
Yep. Daddy.
And as usual, you may choose a bonus die or extra effect.
A success.
Oh, as it hasn't come to roll 20 yet.
Oh, it is a success. I got a 4.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's not, for some reason, it's not come through yet.
Okay. Well, so it's mostly a fairly ordinary. There's nothing really remarkable going on here. It doesn't seem to. You remember from what Mr. Slide once told you that Thorne and Wynn are law partners. So for the most part, these seem to be out of office meetings with clients, a few personal appointments, like there's doctor's appointments in here. Naturally, because it includes meetings with clients, a lot of the names are allied, as it'll be Mr. B, Mr. C, etc. But you are a person who understands how these things work. And you remember that he mentioned something about something happening a few days from now. So you start with this week, you work your way a little back, you work your way a little forward. He may have done this for your benefit, knowing that he was bringing it to you. But either way, there is an entry, the only entry written in red ink. It is for 3 days hence, and it says 6 p.m. The unveiling.
Three days. Do I remember what churches Gracelings are working on?
You can... Did you ever know that?
No, probably not. Might have been mentioned. Maybe I know some.
I mean, your options really are either... Well, I don't say what they're saying either, since there are 4 of you. It's go to some of the sites to see what's going on, and go to the offices of A. Graceling and Co.
These churches have had work on them recently. Maybe that these people are doing something. The unveiling. We need to investigate, but we need to not be seen to be investigating. Three days. And by the end of the week, this storm will be over.
All of this in 3 days?
Seems to have been a long time in the making, Mr. Leech.
Do you remember what it was that Mr. Thorne said about these 12 sites?
They needed to go up?
He said...
them.
That's right. He
Hit them.
said, these are the only ones you have to hit, but you have to hit them all.
Hold on. We need to investigate. I suggest, gentlemen, we pick one each. And then report back.
Fair enough.
These people came for us. I have no intention of letting them succeed.
Okay. Why don't we take a quick break, and then we will reconvene on the scouting of some of the sites. And I will be spending the break opening up my Victorian map of London and choosing some cool sites for you to go and see. Some of which might be invented if I can't find anywhere I like them, but we'll see. We
No
will
one's
be.
gonna know.
Well, no one's going to know. They might now conceive of me as a liar. But they can't be sure unless they, look it up. But don't do that. The magic would be ruined.
Let's be honest. All places in London are made up.
Hey,
It's not real. It's not a real place.
It does. There is sometimes when you're in London, if you're not from there, it doesn't sometimes feel quite real just because it has its own just completely vibe. It has the city of London has its own police who have gold braid on their uniforms instead of the silver braid that every other office in the country has. They're just a completely different police force, completely
we call
independent.
them the fancy police.
Yeah.
Mega cops.
They're the mega cops. Anyway, we will be back probably somewhere close to past. I imagine we'll go and make ourselves a cup of tea. What's Izzy saying? Oh, she's saying that.
I'm just
Say
saying
bye.
bye.
Great.
Say bye to
Well, just
people.
we'll see you in 20 minutes. Au revoir.
Don't get a wet bite from the copperheads. They're coming
They
for
don't
you.
call them wet bites. It's just dry bites, and then.
Hi,
The
everyone.
opposite of dry bite is wet bite.
The existence of dry
soaked.
bite implies the existence of a wet bite.
Now if I see a snake biting someone, I'm gonna go, whoop, getting a bit of a wet bite there, I see.
Yeah, but that's a wet bite.
Welcome back from our break, everyone. I
Hi.
hope you enjoyed a cup of whatever hot liquid, wet or dry bite you might have enjoyed in our absence. So the gentlemen strangers are wet bite. The gentlemen sorry, that's just really degoused my brain. The gentlemen strangers divide up and take some. Now you mentioned before that you're interested in looking around without making it look like you're looking around. So there are some sites that are on your map that are pretty well attended because they're quite famous sites. There are also some sites that are quite out of the way and obscure. So those are different ways of going unnoticed. As I said in the break, it would be irresponsible for me to not include the Parliament Clock Tower as one of the steepled buildings that is included on this list. That obviously you can't just wander around the Palace of Westminster as you like, but you can certainly get onto the grounds. Also, reasonably nearby, St. Martin in the Fields is quite a famous church, so people going around and having a look at that isn't the most, it depends on what stage of construction it's at. And as I say, there are some more obscure sites that, So I guess what I'll be asking each of you is, do you want to go to one that's more touristy where you're less likely to be noticed, or one that's more out of the way so you're less likely to be seen at all, essentially?
I think if it's okay for me to go first,
Mm.
I think that Mr. Lurk would like to pick the location that is closest to where his wife works.
Right,
That
right.
I'm sorry, okay? He cares a lot about his partner.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so that he can maybe, two birds, one stone.
Yeah, I mean, disrespectful probably wife a bird, but yeah. Okay, so
he's getting a bit of that London twang.
That's true. He's picking up the lingo. Good. So when you find one of these sites, it's not one of the. Hold on, let me just roll a die here. See what happens. Yeah, whatever. What did happen? Okay, so there is one quite close by. There's one actually on the same street as your wife's hospital. It's not one of the red asterisk ones, but it's still one of the marked sites. It's actually a construction site in the process of being disassembled. I mean, the scaffolding and everything's being disassembled. It's a small church. The actual main building of the church looks reasonably new just by how clean the stonework is, but the bell tower looks very old. And you can see that there's a small crew of builders engaged in taking down construction. Yeah, that's the initial description.
Yeah, is he also able to, well, so I think if he can, I don't know, like, what is it that we're looking for? I guess that's maybe also something we would check in with each other before this all happens.
Yeah, of course,
so.
yeah. I think anyone knows. They're too busy trolling each other in the chat. This is Mike and Izzy fighting the chat while Zoe's trying to conduct the business of the meeting.
He's an expat. He's an expat who the most important thing in his life is his wife. It matters to him. It's
And they're
important.
specifically making fun of him for that. My goodness.
Izzy fucked up roleplay because they were busy typing Borat voice, my wife.
My wife.
I'm sorry.
Listen,
I'm a professional.
Some of us have spouses who we love very much, and that's important.
We know.
We're not loved. We don't.
Yeah. Well, and some of us are a criminal, a deviant woman, and a repressed homosexual. We don't get wives in our.
You've just described Mr. Leech 3 times. Why don't you pick someone else to list?
Describe someone else.
Sorry, Ash. Sorry.
Whoa.
I just
The
assume.
whales.
No, I don't assume Mr. Leech is repressed in the slightest. I think Mr.
What?
Leech is out and about.
Oh.
I have a wonderful story about lesbians and pigeons. There's this book that I'm reading, which is about a spy ring in the Second World War, a British spy ring in the Second World War, and one of the operatives happened to be a lesbian, a fact which her handlers remarked upon, and every time they called her a lesbian, they did it with a capital L. And separately, he was also quite fond of the idea of using messenger pigeons to send messages to his spies and so on. The author of the book about this spy ring wrote the following sentence, which is one of the best sentences in the English language I've ever read. Pigeons, like lesbians, warranted a capital letter. And that's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's my story.
Mr. Leech loves pigeons and lesbians.
So, Zoe asked a question, which is incredibly valid and did not deserve Borat. What is it that Mr. Lurk is supposed to be looking out for, and what you're all supposed to be looking out for?
Yeah, what is like the actual mission of this?
Mike was also bullying
Oh
Zoe.
my god!
Oh, God. Okay, so when he said we need to hit these places, do they mean like we need to go in there and I don't know.
We need names, faces, any location that they are operating out of. So anyone that you can reasonably tail, any documents that you could reasonably lift.
What is out of place here? Like, there's construction work. Why is there construction work? What has been done here? Who is in charge here? Like, what is out of place in this place?
Oh, he didn't mean like we need to heist it.
No, we just don't know what it is. We're trying to find out why what's going on.
We are in the investigation phase.
Why is this building a point of interest to our enemies?
Okay, so we're just like looking for whatever is like out of place, and then any like specific information.
Yeah, we're trying to find answers. We're investigating our next port of call action.
Then yeah, I think that Mr. Lurk will I was going to say he goes up on the roof and tries to get onto the steeple that way, but that's not what we're doing. So what he's going to do is do perimeter check, try and see what he can see from the outside, and then if there is an opportunity to safely and sneakily sneak into the building and see what he can see on the inside, do that while keeping an eye out for his wife.
Oh no. That would be a survey check. To answer your question, Mr. Bowman, the book is called Double Cross by Ben McIntyre.
Thank you for asking.
And this is controlled?
Yeah,
Or
this is controlled. You're wandering around the same as anyone else. So
Controlled, standard. No bonus dice. That's a 3.
I have I just tapped this stupid button that exists for no reason on the side of my mouse, and it exited me out of Roll20. Why is there a button on the side of my mouse whose job is to do that? But it was a 3. So you don't really see anything out of the ordinary. You're not massively experienced with how construction sites work. Plus, it's the 19th century. It's not like there's much in the way of health and safety laws. So you're not sure you see anything particularly out of the ordinary. But you are confident that what they're doing is disassembling their rig. And you're not sure there's any way in that's particularly less notable than any other. But the building itself is open to the public. There are signs around the tower, but the main chapel area is open to the public.
Then I will go in.
There is a notice board up, which says some spiel about the historic bell tower and the restoration work and so forth. Would it have... No, it's talking about how there's restoration work and plans to add electric lights to the church, the better to serve the community around the clock.
Okay.
Look at Izzy flexing.
Is it possible to get from the inside to get to the bell tower?
Yeah,
I
you can.
assume because it's like that's where the construction was happening, that part is probably off limits.
It is, but it is connected to this building, so if you can, it is technically possible for you to access them directly.
I would like to try to do that as unseen as I can.
Then I will ask you probably to prowl.
Okay. Controlled. Standard.
It is actually controlled. Yeah, it is controlled.
That's a 3 again.
So essentially what happens is you are gently rebuffed by a builder who's like, "No, not meant to be here, mate. Not safe."
Sorry.
No, that's
Sorry,
all right.
yeah.
That's all right.
Didn't see the
Don't worry,
sign.
we'll be out of
Yeah.
here in a couple of days.
Thanks. Shit. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna try to do. I'm not gonna try to push my luck here.
Sure. Okay. Who's next? I will say, Mr. Leech. Mr. Leech, me old mucker. I have a question about this. The first question I have to ask is, are you doing this as... You can't... my guess is you're doing this as Ellie Carver, right? Just as a random woman, because the other strangers aren't around, and obviously you can't go around in.
Yeah. So my plan was to go to the most. Is there like a very touristy location that unaccompanied women might go to? I don't.
Well, you might be. Yeah, the best. The best
like a museum, or I don't know.
Yes,
Okay.
You could go to Trafalgar Square.
Sure.
National Gallery's there. St Martin in the Fields is there. It's very busy. It's very public. I don't think anyone would even notice whether you were accompanied or whether whoever was
Okay.
accompanying you was temporary. I don't think anyone would really notice. It's the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So much the same. You also see some crew taking down some equipment. There's no scaffolding here. You can see that there is a sign that says workmen on site. But there's no scaffolding anymore. You
Right.
do see two men in tan overalls who are, one of whom is kneeling down looking at a like an electric panel, right? Like a modern day electric panel.
Yeah.
Except that it's not a metal box, it's just a wooden box on the outside of the building under the lee of the tower. He's just sort of doing something with that, while the guy next to him is reading from a manual. He's sort of squinting at it like he's trying to pronounce French as phonetically as possible.
Okay.
They're arguing about what input C might mean in this context.
Okay, so I'm close enough to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just hang around and see what they say?
Yeah, you can make a survey check to do it inconspicuously and but close enough to get the information that you need.
I would love to look like an inconspicuous woman.
You're doing so well so far.
Controlled. Yeah.
Yep, it's definitely controlled standard.
Why are the women in the Gentleman Strangers such herbos?
Nice. Because both Ash and Bree are. So,
6.
A 6, fantastic. So
Yeah.
you basically, if anyone thinks you're standing where you shouldn't be because you're just a meekly built young woman, no one is rude enough to shoo you away. You're not doing any harm. You're not in the way of anything. Why would they do this?
Women don't have brains, do they? So like,
You couldn't. Well,
it's
if
not like I can pick
they
anything up.
can't understand what's happening, certainly.
I definitely can. And they're just nice guys, so
they are just some nice guys. So they seem to be. There's a toolbox, but at no point does the man doing the work ever reach for a tool. You get the impression they're double checking something. As you roll a 6, so you even feel confident enough to kind of get a little look around the guy who's holding this technical manual. Although you can't read because the diagram's quite complicated. You can see that what he's doing is reading out a list of things that should be plugged into other things and so on. There are a couple of road bumps where something's labelled a certain way in the book, but it's not labelled at all in the box or anything like this. But yeah, what these seem to be doing is double checking that something's the case.
Okay. So where is this? Is this in a gallery or?
This is you are in the churchyard of St Martin in the Fields. They are at the base of the steeple, where there's this wooden cabinet where there are electrics inside, apparently. This is outside.
Okay. I'm going to go up to them, and I'm going to do my best whimsical woman with no brain impression. Because
will I detect a difference?
What?
What?
And I'm going to ask them quite earnestly, excuse me, gentlemen, but is there something wrong with the steeple?
Oh, the guy with the manual clutches it to his chest like it's got his private letters or something in it. Oh, half new, miss. No, not at all. We're from the electric company. We're just here to make sure everything's safe before the big,
What, sir?
Oh, they're having all sorts done. Electric lights and so on. Very modern.
Electric lights?
Well, on account because it's Trafalgar Square, they want it to look nice and
Oh.
prominent
And
and all that.
is this just Trafalgar, or is it happening all over the city?
Actually, we've done quite well out of it. The church has decided to light most of London's buildings and get all the churches lit up and so on. I think it's going to be pretty slow because, for one thing, I don't think there's enough light bulbs in all of London to do it all in one go. But yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Giggle. Jesus Christ. I love her. Can we see her more often? She's really brilliant.
Sure, I don't know who she is, but she's here.
Her name is Adelaide, no doubt.
Yeah. As I'm just going around the city, looking at things and seeing said things. I just wondered if there was something going on. Any special occasion?
I'm looking at things and seeing the things. I genuinely think your act of just being a coquettishly innocent young woman, I just don't think anything you're saying strikes him as odd at all. I just think he's like, of course you are.
Tee, what are your secret plans?
Sorry, what did you ask him?
I asked if there was a special occasion.
Oh. No, I don't think so. I think it's all part of this, all the bigwigs are all doing this whole getting ready for the 20th century thing, electricity and, I don't know, flying carriages, no doubt.
Oh,
balloons to the moon or whatever.
I rather worried that perhaps the steeple was, you had to do repair on it because of the dreadfully awful weather.
Oh no, sound as a pound, miss. Sound as a pound.
Oh. Do you have any idea when this awful weather will leave us?
I couldn't say, miss.
Oh,
I'm afraid my expertise is more in the manual, mechanical style of thing rather than the meteorological.
Oh, I see. Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad. So silly of me.
That's all right, miss.
I was just, I should probably let you go. You've probably got plenty of jobs to be doing.
Oh yes, sir. Sure, yes, sir. Almost done. But yes, busy, and all that. Good afternoon, then.
Well, you don't have a moment to perhaps show me what you've been doing. I'm quite intrigued.
I would like you to roll sway, consort maybe, because you are putting on a bit of charm. Whatever you think's best.
We're going to sway. Am I controlled? In my swaying?
I think you can. Yeah, you're controlled. The risk is not that they stab you because you have to roll
me into
very punt you into the Thames. Just goodbye.
They plug me into the electric board and
that would be bad for you.
Oh fucking! I felt that pretty bad.
Well, obviously I don't want to be rude or anything, miss, but this is a question of paramount elfin safety. We've got to keep the box locked up when we're not working on it, and sort of all that stuff.
Of course.
No offense or nothing.
No.
Can't have everyday members of the public poking around, so you could get quite dangerously hurt. It's quite mystical stuff. Electricity, it can go right through you, do you all kinds of harm.
It could do awful things to my disposition. Is the church still open for visitors, or?
Oh yeah. The construction crew working on making sure the roof was all safe and all that, they're long gone, so the whole thing's open.
Okay, and can you visit inside the steeple, or is it?
I wouldn't so much know, miss, but I'm sure there'll be either an open door or a closed door in there.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you lovely young men to it, and I will go and have a lovely time looking around this beautiful church.
Well, you have a lovely afternoon, miss. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Right.
feel nourished.
That was
Like
just
that.
everything. That was
Well,
great.
okay. I'm gonna go look around the church, specifically the steeple, see where these electrical things are going to from.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of there's a decent number of people in the church, and actually, you do overhear some of them looking at where you can see there are these. They're kind of placed as subtly as possible, but around the edge of the room there are like these metal pipes, and from out of them come fixtures where, presumably at some point, light bulbs will be installed. Following the metal pipes, and not at all to your surprise, you see that they lead back into the steeple area.
Okay. There's nothing in the steeple that is alarming or...
It's roped off, so it would be a little suspicious for you to physically cross the rope and climb it. But you can see if you have a peek up the bell tower, up the spiraling stairs that go up, you can see that a sort of grid. The closer thing it looks like is, you know, the under netting of a skirt. What's that?
Yes.
What's that thing called? Petticoat? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, a mesh petticoat.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Tool.
The structural
Like crinoline?
support. Yeah, the thing that would support a crinoline. The structural support.
A hoop?
Yeah. It looks like that because it follows the round shape of the bell tower. It's almost like a metal. It looks like almost they've been installed as reinforcements. They're actually bolted into the ancient stone.
There isn't... Are these electric wires, are they all part of the same thing? Like, are the electric wires going into this reinforcement, or are these reinforcement just a standalone?
Roll me survey. And you can have an extra die as a minor help from Photo Potato.
Oh, thank you.
Sounded really
Sorry,
hard.
that sounded really sarcastic. I
thank you.
genuinely mean it.
A 4.
Okay.
Lovely.
4.
So you
Top
can't
of
be
the-
100% sure because there's the angle from which you're viewing it's a bit limited, but absolutely this metal inner cage structure definitely reaches all the way down to the ground, and definitely you can see cables leading out to where you're sure that box goes. You can't see the connection.
Okay.
But they're definitely close by, so they absolutely could be connected.
All right. And by this time, have they gone, or are they...
They were probably packing up their tools as you were going to the church, yeah.
Can I inconspicuously look at this thing, or this panel, or is it locked up? And
it is locked. I don't think there's a way of inconspicuously
not with
inspecting it.
I can't get in with some... I don't know.
I'm not doubting you could get in. Getting in without someone seeing you get in is a different question.
Okay. No, I'm going to leave it. And leave it because I don't want to draw too much attention to myself.
Okay.
I think any other day they probably would have done it, but they're a bit scared.
Okay.
So
Lovely.
that's about
Mr.
it.
Spider?
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello, it's me, Mr. Spider. This has always been my voice.
Where does Mr. Spider investigate?
Mr. Spider is going to the offices of A. Graceling and Associates.
Very good. You know where these offices are, of course.
I'm gonna get in a cab. Is it possible that I could drive in this cab, or get a cab near enough that it's a surety that it would drive past the Aventine?
You could that because the Aventine is in Covent Garden, there are quite a lot of prominent things nearby. Where if you said, "Oh, would you mind just swinging by such and such street?" It wouldn't seem strange, but it would definitely give you a view.
That's what I want.
You drive by Aventine. It is not as bad as you have presumed. It's very bad, but it wasn't. It doesn't look like there was an explosion. For one thing, the building is intact, but you can see everywhere soot marks. There are still people dressed in firefighter uniforms who are searching debris. The device seems to have been therefore some sort of incendiary. Fortunately, because it's quite an easily accessible area of the city, the adjacent buildings are not much harmed. The fire brigade was able to get there reasonably soon. Of course, it was, a while ago now, a good few hours ago now, so there's no way to know if anyone's hurt or so and so. You do see Mr. Hyde talking to one of the firefighters, however. Or probably to a police inspector, giving a statement.
Mr. Spider sets his paper down and feels at least contented that nothing terrible has happened to Mr. Hyde. Other than the terrible thing that's happened to Mr. Hyde.
This is not the best thing that's ever happened to him, admittedly. But no, the you get a good view of that, and of course it goes around the corner so you can see. You imagine quite, because you, having been there, you know how much of it was, cloth curtains, wood paneling, alcohol. The Aventine is actually an extremely flammable venue. So you can well imagine that inside it's just gone.
Yeah.
Probably don't have to imagine. The windows will be gone. And you'll be able to see that inside it's all black. So yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
But yeah, you continue on your journey and arrive at the offices of A. Graceling and Co.
A. Graceling.
I assume you are going as Nathaniel Breaker rather than
Yeah.
Mr. Spider.
Yeah. And he's going to head into the office.
I suspect that the secretary recognizes you.
It's not the first time he's been here.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Breaker.
Good morning. Is Mrs. Graceling in?
Yes, she is, sir. If you'll wait just a moment. A few minutes later, Lena comes and graves you into her office and asks for some coffees.
Lena.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Are you busy?
Yes, but that doesn't mean I'm not perfectly happy to entertain you. It's about time I had a cup of coffee anyway.
Yes. I'm sorry I haven't been by sooner. Things have been rather busy my end.
Well, take a seat. How can I help?
You
You can see on her wall, by the way, a map showing all the same sites. This map's freshly printed. It's not a map that's been printed and then someone circled it. This has been printed for her purposes.
I actually wondered if you could help me with something I'm doing.
If I can, I'll certainly try.
You've been contracted to work on some buildings. Churches and...
What gave it away?
The construction.
We have been all over the city.
Yes. I have a list of addresses. I just need to know what you've been doing to them.
This all sounds rather official.
It'll sound both official and deeply suspect. let's just say you could consider it a favour to your favourite little brother.
Well, we're not doing anything secret.
No, I know.
It's all a matter of public record. That everything's done with permits from the councils and.
Yes, but I don't want to have to trawl through all the public records offices and requisition all the files. I want to talk to you and just get some facts, and then I can go back to work.
Well, is it? I can't imagine your office is particularly interested. Is this a personal curiosity?
Lena.
All right.
I'm just so tired. And I just need to get this done. And you have no idea how much joy it brought me to see Graceling name on the side of on the list of contractors. It just meant that I didn't have to dedicate 2 days of my life to trawling through dusty boxes.
I will admit it's been quite exhilarating. I think it's the kind of big project Tony always dreamt that we'd get. So I'm glad to be able to oversee it.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be successful enough that we'll get other cities. We just opened our Manchester office, so fingers crossed.
Yes, you did. Finally taking the great trip north. I remember how excited Anthony used to be about opening a northern office. He said it would be very wild and exciting.
He always called the north the heart of industry.
Yes. I remember it vexed father, so. The north might be the heart of industry, but London is the heart of an empire.
Slightly fresher air in Manchester, all told.
Really? Even with all the factories and coal mines and such?
Well, I did say slightly. It doesn't have the same depressed air that you get down here,
Oh, London's exhilarating. What are you talking about?
Anyway, what was you needing help with?
Oh, addresses. Let me give you the list. I'm interested in what you've been doing, what modifications have been done to the buildings.
Modifications?
Well, what constructions have been done to the buildings. And I am interested in who hired you.
Well, it's restoration work, it's... I wouldn't necessarily call it proper construction. Quite a lot of these sites only needed inspecting. We were really working... The contract is with the diocese. We were performing inspection work on most of these sites, and then our work ended. On some of them, there was some reinforcement to be done. These buildings are, in many cases, hundreds of years old. And for the most part, we were doing preparation work to hand over to another company who was going to do some sort of awfully fancy-sounding electrical upgrades.
Hired by the diocese, you say?
Well, paid by them. So, yes.
What was the company you were going to hand over to? May well be I'm on a paper trail.
Kaplan Electrics.
Kaplan Electrics.
Dear. The spark of familiarity, pardon the pun.
Oh. Moses Kaplan and I have history.
Really?
Yes.
What a coincidence.
Hence my interest.
Oh, Mr. Kaplan has been a very agreeable colleague over the course of this project. To be honest, when we started, I wasn't sure he was up for it. Bit of a one-man band, as it were, but he's used the down payment from the church to expand a little bit.
He's very talented. And he's got that New York charm about him.
Well, I wouldn't know if he was talented, but the church seemed to think that he was the man for the job. I think they have slightly better uses for electricity on the other side of the Atlantic, and I think that the church wanted to modernise a little bit before the 20th century creeps up on them.
Yes, well, it's coming for us all.
We have electric lights in our market streets and in our private homes, and I think that the time has come for the illumination of the Lord not to be the only regular light source that these buildings see. Anyway, I haven't really been involved in all of that, just making sure that the steeples are, well, structurally sound.
Do they have reason to believe that the steeples will interact poorly with electric light bulbs?
No. I personally, having spoken to Mr. Kaplan, think it's a little bit, well, for want of a better word, superstition. I think they're well aware that given that church steeples are among the buildings in London most likely to be struck by lightning, they couldn't have predicted that better, could they? I think they wanted to make sure that there was protection in place. You can't have steeples struck by lightning when the churches are electrified, because you can't have churches bursting into flame and so forth.
Would be quite embarrassing.
Well, quite a lot of these buildings are very old, and although they can be rebuilt to an extent, they are the heritage of generations of London, so I can see why they'd want to start here and preserve them.
Oh, no, completely. Very, very safe of them. That was something of the concern, I believe. Ensuring safety is being overseen.
Well, I've certainly seen lightning rods installed in various buildings. I will say the work here was a lot more thorough. I really know nothing about electrics at all, but perhaps the more metal is involved, the safer it is. I really couldn't tell you.
Well, I imagine metal is significantly less flammable than wood.
No. It's something to do with the principle of oh goodness, he told me this so many times. It's either conduction or induction. I can't remember. It all sounds rather fascinating, but not quite my speed.
See, Lena, you always were the smart one.
I always will be.
Yes. You're the smart one. Jacob's the good-looking one.
You're the charming one, God help us.
I didn't say that.
No.
I'm the one Father wishes would make something of himself.
Mm.
Oh, heavens, am I the wastrel?
What a revolting thought.
I didn't think I was.
I'm very curious as to why you needed to know all this. I tell you, it is a matter of public record.
Yes, but my time is a lot more valuable. Plus, it was an excuse to come and see my sister.
I hope I've managed to help.
You've done tremendously, thank you, Lena. I apologise that I can't make it more than a passing visit, but...
Well, you've time to finish a cup of coffee.
Yes, I suppose I do.
Well, I wasn't asking a question. You certainly can't come interrogating me, not at least spend a few minutes on some small talk.
Have you heard from Jacob and Hattie lately? Are they well?
Oh, yes. Awful weather we're having.
Yes, frightful. Am I not allowed to ask after my own family? It's easier to ask one person about the whole family than have to go to dinner at Mother and Father's.
You have been missed. Perhaps some of your fatigue would wear off if you spent some time surrounded by familial comfort.
They have 5 children. They don't need me around.
They only have one you.
Yes, I believe only one of me is all that London could take.
You're not some sort of secret policeman here to arrest me for dodgy construction practices. It's the last thing I need.
Yes, I'm afraid that there's only a certain quantity of metal that can be allowed on London's churches, and you've broken the law, Mrs. Graceling.
Well, in that case, I can definitely plead innocence. I placed not one bit of metal in any of the churches. For that, you will need to arrest Mr. Kaplan if you can find him.
Well, then perhaps I shall finish my coffee and make that my next port of call.
For all I know, he's vanished back off to New York. I haven't had a meeting with him for 5 weeks now.
5 weeks. Well, if he's in London, I shall find him.
Goodness. You make it sound like I've been in partnership with a fugitive, Nathaniel.
No, as if I need to speak with him, I will find him in London or I shall write to him.
I have several lines of contact to him. Perhaps I can be of assistance?
An address for his office would suit me well.
Ask Miss Bridges on your way out. She'll help.
Of course. Of course.
You know the reason that you're not the charming one? You always talk like you're up to something. 9 times out of 10, you actually are.
Yes. I always have been up to something. The benefit of being the middle child.
Civil servant through and through. You know, when people say civil servant, half the time they mean some sort of spy.
I don't think I'd make a very good spy.
Oh, heavens, you working for the Russians. That would be inconvenient to Papa.
That would hurt his feelings so terribly. Plus,
Well,
my Russian is terrible.
I do have a meeting in a few minutes, so do give the Tsar my best.
Do svidaniya, comrade.
Comrade? What the hell?
Yes, the timing is very strange.
The timing is very strange. I've only barely heard of communism myself. Can't imagine it taking hold.
I don't even know what a communism is. Plus, Lena, I've never developed a taste for vodka.
No. Miss Bridges will. I think she has no good reason to give you any details, but since you're the brother of the boss, why would she not? She writes down an address for Captain Electric's Limited's London office.
I want just a spiritual point that I'm connected the dots before being told the dots.
You did. You did. I don't know how even. I was listening to you go, Moses Kaplan. What do you mean Moses Kaplan? I haven't said
Moses
that.
Kaplan. Because he was the electrician from the Adonium.
No, he was indeed. He was indeed. That is very true. I take it that's where you're heading next before I move on to Mr. Hound.
Yep, that's where I'm off to.
Mr. Hound.
I think mine's a little less exciting. I won't be talking to any of my backstory characters or nothing. I'll probably be finding the church that I'm most familiar with on a nighttime excursion and just break in and see what's going on, have a little root around.
You're not going to be pretending to be a dainty lady getting information from some blindsided workmen.
He tries it once and mid his introduction of hello. No, you know what?
Yeah.
No.
You know what? Shut it down. Shut it down. It's not happening.
Yeah, I was just
good call.
Come
overall.
back in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the nobody wants to be out in the evenings in this weather. The storm, when it was very clear, the storm was not abating anytime soon. Londoners got used to it during the day, but no one wants to be out at night in it. You can't really see because it's not constantly raining, but every now and then there's a quick spray of rain or something. And if you do get rained on, it'll only be for 10 seconds, but you'll be absolutely splashed by a carriage. So no one really wants to be out. Fortunately for Mr. Hound, this means it's fairly easy to find somewhere that no one's likely to go after sunset.
Yeah.
So I suppose what I will ask for is some sort of prowl, but I won't actually.
Oh.
I don't want you to succeed. No, I won't, because there's no real way you can. Like, you have. It's so controlled. I think that taking your time, you'll eventually get it. Plus, it's a church. Breaking into a church is really easy. They are not sophisticated, secure sites. There's a notice at this church too. Again, it just explains about repair and restoration work taking place on the bell tower as part of a church-wide project to electrify the lighting and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
If you try the newly installed light switch, nothing happens. There are no bulbs in the sockets or anything like that. Following the pipes, as Mr. Leech did, you will eventually come to the stairs up to the bell tower.
Oh, head up there.
So you will see that, because you have the liberty of being able to see from up close and at the proper angle, that there is some sort of the metal cage that I described runs down via some rubber wound cables into a wooden box, much as the one I described for Mr. Leech, but this one is inside the steeple. The cage
Oh.
runs up and around all the way up to the top.
He will kind of like, he will have like maybe like a not a pad, but like a few scraps of paper to just jot things down, do rough diagrams. And he's basically going to try and secure as much information as he can, see where all of these things are leading, under the suspicion of there might be something at some point which marks this as more occult than scientific. And so he's really looking for something like that.
You make your way up the steps. I am going to roll. Partway up, you are temporarily surprised. I'll use the word shocked. That's a loaded expression in this particular context. You are temporarily caught off guard by a roar of thunder above you, which, because you're in this tight space, stone space, is just very it rebounds a lot, mostly through your brain. And perhaps it is that surprise and the fact that, you are somewhere you shouldn't be, and that does tend to put one a little bit on edge, that makes you think for a moment that you're not alone here.
All right. There will be a kind of keeping my hand a little closer to where I secrete my guns, and then taking a little bit more of a cautious approach, sticking to the shadows, sticking to walls. I'll continue along the way, but a little bit warier.
When you get up into the bell tower, you see what I suppose you could think of as the other end of this arrangement. You're familiar with the basic concept of a lightning rod. It's a pretty old idea by this point in history. You can make, for whatever reason, lightning finds some things more attractive than others, and if you can keep lightning away from buildings, that's a good thing. And if this is a lightning rod, that's what it makes you think of. Because in your head, you've got this picture of an elaborate arrangement of metal rods and hoops that go from the top of the steeple all the way down into whatever it is that cabinet at the bottom is. And that makes you think lightning rod. That, and of course the constant rumbling of the thunder ahead, and the fact that it just struck. It's an unavoidable association. But imagine the roof of the steeple is in is patterns arranged octagonally. Down every other corner of these, so there are 4, there is an arrangement of cables that looks far more elaborate than it should be for simply a lightning rod. Essentially, a stick strapped to the side of a building. The cables are arranged, sometimes they're spiraling around each other. They meet in curious metal fixtures that look almost like they're almost shaped like hand grenades. They are sort of, cylindrical. They've got a strange sort of pattern on the outside. You and I, looking at them, would see these kinds of fixtures on something like a pylon. Mr. Hound, of course, has seen nothing of the kind, except for when he was backstage at the Adonium Theatre.
He wasn't at the Adonium.
He wasn't at the Adonium. Okay.
No.
But neither time? No. Because they were gone. So yeah, we would associate these things with things like transformers and pylons and so on. Mr. Hound associates them with nothing. But yeah, that's what you're seeing. Yeah.
From there, he'll basically try and look for loose bits and pieces, spares, samples of, like, if there's coils of this that haven't been used yet. Basically, looking to lift and steal what he can to take it back and get an expert's eye on what are these made up of? What can we suppose they do?
I will roll fortune to see if I can generate you some leftover materials. 6, yeah. So you will find underneath a sort of scrap of chamois leather, you will find a section of cable that looks like a part of one of these strange arrangements that are running down the corners of the roof. About a sort of a 6-inch section of cable.
I will grab that. Either sling that in a bag that I might be carrying or over one shoulder. And yeah, I'm still a little bit wary that I might have been pursued here. So I think he will basically hunker down somewhere and just give it, like, as long as he can, reasonably wait, just to make sure that there's no one else in here, that he's not being followed up. Give it a lot of time before he heads back out, even if it means waiting until just before dawn.
Sure. Yeah, you wait. I don't know how long it takes for that confidence to build, but there is no further sign that you're anything but alone here.
All right, then I'll head on out.
Okay. I guess Mr. Spider then will take you to the offices of Kaplan Electrics Limited. It's a very they seem to have rented out a reasonably small office space. There's a very harassed secretary who seems to have far more work than she can do. But nevertheless, she has a certain level of professional courtesy as you enter. Oh, no. Oh, can I help you, sir?
Good afternoon. Mr. Slattery to see Mr. Kaplan.
Mr. Kaplan specifically, sir?
That is what I was told.
What time was your appointment, sir?
Approximately 4:30. I'm running a little late.
I don't think that the... I'm afraid I don't have anything in the books, but in any case, I'm sorry to say that Mr. Kaplan is not here.
Well, for heaven's sake.
Mr. Kaplan returned to America 3 weeks ago, sir.
Well, who was it I spoke to on the telephone, then?
It can only have been me, sir, and I apologise, but I can't imagine why I would have promised an appointment with Mr. Kaplan. He's not here.
Heavens! Well, this is most irregular. I've only been in the office for a number of months, and already these things are piling up. The diocese can't stand for it.
I'm sorry, there's not much I can do. I can send him a telegram to reach out to your office.
Yes, I suppose you must. Who is running things in his absence?
Mr. Nash, sir.
Mr. Nash. Remind me? I had a meeting with Mr. Kaplan about a month ago. I thought we'd arranged this then.
I'm afraid there's nothing in the books, sir. I'm sorry.
No. If he's not here, he's not here. It's not your fault. I'm so sorry. It's been quite a day, and I don't mean to take it out on you. Mr. Nash. Do you know where I could find him?
If you'll give me a moment, sir, I will see if he's available.
Lovely, thank you. Miss...
Sure. So.
Sure. Lovely, thank you.
So what did you say your name was?
Slattery.
Slattery, thank you. She returns a few minutes later. Mr. Slattery, we have a few minutes available, if that suits.
Yes, suits perfectly well, thank you.
Please, this way.
So for what it's worth, Mr. Spider is poking about. The whole time he is there, he is basically doing his best to Sherlock it. He's trying to snoop things, signs, leaflets, books, anything that's lying around that he can try and get some clues from.
For one thing, it gives you the impression of a company that doesn't seem to serve the general public. There's nothing here that's at all designed to attract business.
That's fine. So it's definitely more of a busy place than a public place.
Sure, yeah.
There
are half a dozen people here. They're all doing clerical tasks.
And it seems to be to do with putting electrical wires down.
You can see some. There's one room where two people are poring over a diagram for what you're fairly confident is a new kind of generator. But yeah, that seems to be the idea.
Can I see any maps anywhere?
No.
Not like Graceling and Associates with their big wall maps of places they're working.
They're pretty proud of themselves.
I know they're proud of themselves. I'm proud of them.
You get the impression that there's no one comes here who'd care about any of that stuff. This is you wouldn't even know that anything interesting was happening here if you hadn't been given an address. There's a tiny brass plaque, but walking by it, you wouldn't go, "Oh, there's a genius electrician who works here." It's so under the radar that they haven't even invented radar yet.
My God, they haven't invented radar.
They haven't invented radar.
Terrible.
Yeah.
That being said, I guess I'm going into a meeting.
Yes, you are.
But during which time, if I'm in an office, I want to be looking at things in the office.
Come in, sit
Mr.
down.
Spider is giving the impression of being a little bit absent-minded, therefore to snoop.
Come in. I'm sorry there wasn't anything on the books for you. Can I help you at all? I'm afraid I'm not the electrical genius around here.
No, I'm led to believe America, of all places.
Yes. He felt the call of home, and who can blame him?
For good? Has he given
Oh,
up on the isles?
no, I shouldn't have thought so. Moses just missed home, and I think he felt he had some financial opportunities back in the States to really get us in more of Europe's major cities. Oh no, please sit down. Can I get you anything?
Coffee, please.
Oh, yes, of course. I think I know how to make coffee.
He's still looking at expanding? You seem to have enough on your plate as it is.
Well, busy is the reason we need to expand. We need to hire more staff, but of course it's all going on materials at the moment. You can understand this. I'm sorry, did you say you were from the diocese?
Yes, so long story short, my name is Slattery. I used to work on the board. I was an assistant to Lady Woodbridge at the Adonium. And then I've ended up friend of a friend moving to work for the bishop over at St. Thomas's in the south.
Right.
I understand that there was a company, some building company, doing some construction work there, and then some of your lot were going to come out to it later on and fix things up. Now, I don't understand much of it, but I'm led to believe that there's still more to do, and that your chaps have packed up and gone home.
No one's left a work site early that I know of.
No, not at all, but we were just told that it was all finished. But
I think every site will be finished by the end of business tomorrow, in fact. Day ahead of schedule.
See, I've been sent over by the verger, who seems to think that whatever it was that was requested hasn't been handled. And since I said I knew Kaplan from before, I'd stop by.
Well, I'm not trying to put you off or anything, but I'm really not the person to speak to about that. The verger will have been given a technician at one of our local offices. I can try to help, but your best person to speak to is the verger. He'll have been given a card.
Well, he's gone for the weekend. I don't
What-
know if it's the weekend. He's gone for whatever the nearest religious holiday is.
St. Crispin's Festival. What did you say was the problem?
So he left me a note that have I got it with me? No, it's in my other jacket. Drat it. He left a note simply saying that the works that had been agreed upon were incomplete.
I know what he's referring to.
Yes.
I'm afraid I must present another roadblock to you, Mr. Slattery. We're not in charge of actually installing the light fittings, you see.
Oh.
We've wired you up and connected you to the local generator, and of course provided the safety net to protect your undoubtedly beautiful church. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the exact site.
quite small.
But the actual installation of the lighting is going to be done later. The church doesn't apparently have the budget for every church to be done at once. I'm not sure who you're supposed to contact about that. I can look into it and have a runner sent to you, but I'm afraid the buck might stop with me on this one.
Just a moment. Let me write this down or it'll go straight out of my head. So, you must forgive me. Electricity is quite new to me. We still have gas lamps at home. My mother wouldn't sanction it.
I'm not sure what use you'd have for electricity in the home, sir.
No, of course not. So you have been we've had installed a safety net. Is that is that taking power in, or should we not be worried about that?
I'm not sure. How long did you say you'd been working at this particular church?
Oh, only a few weeks.
Oh, I'm surprised you don't know more about it.
Well, it's not really my area. Everyone's gone, you see, so I've been sent down to see why it's not been completed.
I am certain that everything we have been contracted to do has been completed, sir. If you are waiting on light fixtures, I believe the person you will have to talk to is your bishop or deacon, or whoever's in charge of budgetary affairs in your diocese.
Ah, that's wonderful. At least I have an office I can bump that up to. Thank you so much for your help, Mr. Nash. Again, I'm sorry to bother you and barge down like this, but I just...
No, I'm sorry I haven't been able to give a more complete answer. I suspect your verger might be, well, perhaps a little less versed in these things than even you. The work will certainly be completed. The actual lighting itself, for numerous reasons, just won't be installed yet.
Well, I suppose even doing it piecemeal, the systems are in place for when they finally do.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Slattery.
Shake hands. Leave. Steal.
Don't have to take everything. Okay. Well, I guess you reconvene.
Right, chaps, what do we have?
This puts the cable down immediately on the table.
Good heavens, Hound, what is that?
It's what they're building with. It's what they're installing. Also, Drew, like, he turns around. He's not like a bad artist, but he's not great. But there's like some sketches that he's drawn from memory of like, this is what the arrangement looked like in the spire. Here's the octagonal roof.
So I think that this will provoke that familiarity in Mr. Spider. You remember above the stage in the Adonium when they were trying to create these electrical effects, there was this rig above the stage that was meant to be delivering electricity through the air into Prospero's staff and so on, and the cables that fed from the generator into this had some of these things that Mr. Hound has drawn. You can't remember what they were called, but they were performing some essential function.
Mr. Spider looks briefly through the picture, and then sort of blinks away a memory, a horrible memory. Very good. That's certainly Kaplan's work. Leech, luck?
I had rather the same on my steeple. A grid-like structure. Some blokes were doing some like they were in some sort of cabinet trying to link things up. But when I looked at the steeple, it had that grid and electric wires.
I
That's about it.
unfortunately, I wasn't able to see anything. Mine was very fruitless, so I'm glad that y'all's was not.
I underwent some inspections at the builder's yard that were engaged with construction on these sites, and they led me to the offices of Moses Kaplan, electrical genius and former engineer for the Adonium Theatre. Now, Hound, I don't believe you ever met Mr. Kaplan. But me, Slide, and Cutter found ourselves at the Adonium for an experience of electrical ghosts, apparitions that were haunting the theatre. It was ghastly, quite ghastly. I believe that Kaplan has shut up shop and left the country. Now, he does seem to have left the country, but not before setting up an array of offices throughout London. His people have been wiring up these churches, these buildings, to some sort of generator, some grid of power.
Is someone thumping or tapping their table or another?
Me,
Oh.
I was.
It sounds like thunder going off.
Well, I'm trying to do the storm. I'll do it over here.
It's thematic.
It sounds like
ambiance.
an impending Viking invasion. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm doing sound effects.
Oh no, you just uncovered that the actual plot of Gentlemen Strangers is a Viking invasion.
Well, called it.
Yeah.
Those Victorian Vikings.
With their electricity, darn it.
I mean, all I'm saying is Victorian electrical Vikings sounds pretty cool.
It sounds
does.
mental. It doesn't sound like a thing. It's like you just said 3 words and gone, is this a thing?
And then I put core on the end of it. Victorian electrical Viking core.
Viking
Bam.
build.
Can I feel bad because I feel like Mr. Lurk has not been very useful at all. Is there anything that he can pull from his background because he was like a machinist, like he worked in a factory that had a lot of electrical stuff going on. Is there anything that he can glean about the nature of this electrical stuff?
I would be content to let you study it.
Okay.
Yes, you're an electrical engineer. Do you know Moses Kaplan?
No, but
New York.
So Lurk was, because he was there, that was our like Lurk Spider duo thing when we went to the theater. And so he has seen the theater electrical stuff.
That's
Yeah,
true.
they never took it down.
Yeah, so he has like, there are some connections that he can make. Okay, study, so controlled, standard.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
4.
Good, 4. The part... You're not sure about the part that Hound has brought back. But you do remember... that there were electrical cables that ran through what looked essentially like some sort of canister. And that these had something to do with, either maintaining or controlling the voltage on the line, something to do with keeping it safe, stopping it from building up. You're really not 100% sure, but you know that when a lot of electricity is involved, there are things you like to have along the line to control how everything's going.
I convey that information to everyone.
That is interesting. What I learnt from Kaplan's office was that whilst they have been installing these power grids, they have not been installing any lighting, which I do believe is the stated intention of their installation. Therefore, if this is some sort of protection against overwhelm, what are they worried will overwhelm them? The answer points, unfortunately, to this storm.
I mean, are they protecting the churches, or are the churches acting as conduits for this power? Like, are they, like Mr. Hound, those lightning rods that you saw, is that to draw in power from the storm to be used for something, or is it to protect? I don't know. Even with my machinist background, I don't, I'm not an expert in this newfangled electricity stuff.
Sorry, I thought you were talking to Hound.
I'm talking to all of you. I guess, like, what is the purpose of the lightning rods?
And Thorne wanted to imply that we needed to hit these buildings. That sounds like some sort of street slang. Hound, what does it mean?
You attack them.
Attack the buildings? Why?
Probably not the buildings, might be a case of dismantling the rods within them. If we're talking about multiple points and they're all harnessing power, it might be that wherever this power is meant to be going, the more it's got, the bigger the effect. You are at the very knife's edge of my expertise. I cannot clarify a single word that I just said.
I mean, he did say we had to hit all of them, right?
Yes.
So it's not even just it's not even just about minimizing the power. We have to totally cut it off.
How do we do that? Leech?
Dismantling the reinforcements from the inside.
In a day? With the four of us? We must find a way to dismantle some highly technical apparatus at 12 sites in 24 hours.
I mean, what would Mr. Cutter say to highly technical apparatus?
He would say
So,
mashy spike plate.
All of that apparatus connects to one place in these churches.
So, if you could find where it connects to, just destroy that.
Just sever the connection.
Hound Lurk, how is best to do that? Subtly.
Be quiet.
I'm not sure if there's a way to do it subtly. You could, you can sever things without exploding things.
So is it a matter for some bolt cutters, or is there more to it than that?
I don't know. I mean, I really didn't get to see the apparatuses at all. So
Well,
I don't know what they look like. So I
when
can't.
I was out, the gentlemen were at this panel, and they were making sure that this panel was connected correctly. If the panel, let's say, was connected incorrectly, I'm guessing things won't go where they need to go.
Very well.
Just take all of the connections out.
So just unplug everything from the box.
Or destroy it, or
You're talking my language.
I guess your
Acid
question
is-
then is, do you each assign yourself 3? Do you pair up and assign each pair 6? Or do all 4 of you go to all 12 sites? That kind of thing.
I think pairs is smart.
1006.
Okay.
I can make some form of acidic thing that will eat into components.
That's genius.
It may smoke, but it won't make a noise.
I mean more... We don't want to tip them off to what we're doing. If they come back to the site later on, they will obviously realise that something is amiss. But the concern I have is if they realise that this is something that we have taken it upon ourselves to do, they will lock down the rest of their sites and make it difficult. Very well. We will divide the list. Divide the map. No, north and south or east and west. Whichever has the best divide. Lurk and
Leech.
Leech.
Not my suggestion.
You go ahead then.
We need a thinker and a shooter on each team. I would suggest Leech and myself, and Lurk and yourself.
See no problem with that.
I'm good with that.
So as the strangers pore over the map and begin to plan their best routes through the winding London streets, as somewhere in the middle of a park devoid of nighttime visitors because of the foul weather, a figure in a tattered coat wails and screams with no one to hear him, frightened of what's about to come next. And as Miss Eudora Mountjoy sits up from her desk, licks an envelope, and hands it to her servant, with a slight look of regret upon her face, we end the session.
Meh.
I know you didn't do a score, so we won't do a downtime, but I still think some experience points are warranted.
Hey.
Ah,
Also, Zoe, I noticed your little grumpy face at being paired with Mr. Spider.
He wasn't going to argue against it.
we,
Hey,
we
now.
gotta put the new blood with the old blood.
I
was
saw
gonna
you.
say,
I saw you saying Spider was about to go new and old. We'll just do it that way because it's what I know. And you're like, Spider, no, go with the new blood. I don't wanna. They're new. They think I'm odd.
Theme building exercise.
Even I feel like Leech and Lurk would have been like, "Oh shit, we've been paired with the weirdos."
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, Mr. Hound, you did roll a desperate action earlier. Did you give yourself your experience point for that at the
I
time?
did. Yeah.
Good, lovely stuff. Did you address a challenge with tracking or violence?
I did.
Excellent. Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't say express them.
Okay. And did you struggle with issues from your vice or traumas?
Absolutely not. I had a great time.
You did a pretty good time, that's true.
I mean, struggled with his vice. Instead, he was more like, well, I know where all the good corpses that we found in this city.
Mr. Leech, did you
Yes.
address a challenge with technical skill or mayhem?
I think I technically skillfully healed the party and stopped them from dying.
I absolutely agree, yeah. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And you used your technical skill, you know. Do you put yourself in risk when Mr. Thorne was shot to try to assess?
Yeah,
Yes,
to-
yeah, absolutely.
To help them out.
Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
No.
Your
I mean,
heritage of being a woman.
You did. You expressed your heritage of, I'm just a lady, I don't know anything.
Does that
Stupid,
Eh,
stupid men.
You are the one who gets to decide if it counts,
Yeah,
Ash.
go on then. Yeah, that
Fine.
counts.
I mean, we
Um,
could. The rest of us couldn't have done that performance. It
That's
would have been
true.
very odd.
Did
Yeah.
you struggle with issues from your vice or traumas?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Mr. Lurk, you did a desperate roll. Did you give yourself an experience point for that?
I did.
Fantastic. Did you address a challenge with stealth or evasion?
I stood in the way of bullets, so no.
That's true.
No, but they
Um,
didn't detect you until you did detect.
That's true.
Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background? You did specifically choose to inspect the church closest to where your wife works.
Look,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that was struggling with my vice more than.
if you're gonna get bullied by the mean
Yeah.
boys in the
The white
party,
guy.
You definitely
then-
struggle
Yeah.
with that issue,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did.
Then
Have
you
an
deserve-
XP because we're
What?
awful.
Zoe out of character gets an experience for struggling with that.
Look, we both approve entirely of Mr. Lurk being a wife guy. I
Okay.
love it for him, but we're mean boys.
Mm.
Listen,
Yeah.
yesterday was my wedding anniversary, so I'm a little like
was.
sentimental about
Congratulations.
spousal
Happy anniversary, Zoe.
things.
I don't know when my wedding anniversary is. I don't want to be told.
Michael,
That's
Mike-
bad.
Michael,
There's a story there, I'm sure.
Michael. But does your wife know?
No.
Does,
Well,
it
then there we
involve,
go.
does it involve mistaken identities? A Swiss bank account?
I could tell you I was married in 2016 because this coaster tells me so. And that's,
I'm glad you have a coaster to let you know.
Excellent.
Zoe, the traditional wedding coaster.
Yes.
the wedding
No,
coaster.
I mean, it's a joke, but I also, in one of our rooms, we have a coaster from my sister's wedding that has. So she
yeah.
has a
The
wedding coaster.
wedding coaster.
Ashley,
yeah.
Ashley, you need
Not
to
having a wedding.
Ashley, you
Uh,
and
Oh, you
Tabitha
go
need
to
to get
remember.
wedding coasters.
I'm not going to a wedding with a wet table again.
What is this, some sort of
I
wet
won't be
bike?
humiliated again.
I'm just gonna get everyone copperheads. And
I won't be wet bitten at your wedding.
Oh no.
I refuse.
You may now wet bite the bride.
Right,
A wet
right,
bite
right.
is a kiss.
You may now wet
Oh.
bite the bride. Please exchange your coasters.
With this
Awful.
coaster I thee wed.
Whose XP are we doing?
that we
Fun
would
fact: most snake bite, at least not like this. I don't have any actual like statistics for this, but many snake bites happen after snakes are dead. Do not touch dead snakes. They are still very venomous. They have a bite instinct. Don't mess with dead snakes.
They have a bite instinct.
That's my
even when they're
PSA.
dead.
snake
Yep.
necromancy.
I
Well, I
don't,
mean, it's
I
all
don't
it's
have
all
a
a,
desire to mess with
it's
dead snakes.
necromancy.
So
presumably it's a hinge at tension. So yeah, I mean maybe.
Oh, look, I'm gonna put my stupid fucking finger in the dead
It's
I
snake.
feel-
like
People-
if you just don't mess with dead snakes. is my-
people are idiots.
I mean, I'm going to be
Those are
honest
just
with you.
snakes.
I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't know a dead snake from a living snake. Sometimes they do sit pretty still. So
I wouldn't
maybe-
want to know. I wouldn't want to know.
Snakes move a lot.
it
But if
also
you
might
see a
be
snake
dead.
in the garden, you'll just be like, "That's just a snake getting
Well,
on."
some snakes lie in wait, don't they? So I mean, you know,
True.
no snakes
the
around
sneaky
here
snake.
though. We only really have one venomous snake in the UK, and it's barely venomous. It's an
Yeah.
adder, you know, like who cares? Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So Mr Lurk, take an experience point for some combination of being bullied by these nasty chums.
And these
Um,
sneaky snakes.
Mr Spider,
Hello.
did you address a challenge with calculation or conspiracy?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
I think I did.
Well,
I
mean, sure, you exploited a family connection to get more info. 100%.
I think
Exploited.
not only did I go and see my sister, but when she asked, "Why do you need my help?" instead of answering her, I just went, "Lena."
You went, ooh, woo, I'm your little brother.
I was like, "Come on, I'm your baby brother. I'm your sweet baby brother. Please."
Did you struggle
Love
with
you.
issues from your vital traumas during the session?
I don't think I did. I don't think I struggled. It came up. I talked about it.
You briefly visited them.
I stopped by. I was like, "Hello, vices and traumas. Good day to you," and then I carried on.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you all for showing up to be GM'd by me. Thank you all for showing up to watch us get on and plan our session. Next time, which we'll tell you when that is as soon as we know, we're all going to check our diaries as soon as we
Right
can.
now.
Next time will be the season finale. And at some point, Izzy will tell us more about Trash Quest. It's not called Trash Quest anymore. It's called Misthaven.
Watch
Legends of Misthaven.
Watch the skies, trashos, because you've
Oh,
gotten
the sky.
you've gotten too accustomed to the professional dulcet stylings of this man, and you've lost sight of what it is to be a trash GM, and that is being a little chaos goblin. And you all have had it good for too long, and fundamentally, you need someone to point at you and call you all a bunch of fuckos. And that someone is me. So you keep an eye on our socials, mostly our Discord, but also just like look into your tea leaves. Stare into
We
the
tweet.
dark.
If anyone's still on Twitter, we do tweet.
Stare into your dark abyss. Do some mopping and see if the mop head makes a little pattern, and then that will tell you the answers. Or just look at Discord and Twitter, and we will tweet more about Legends of Misthaven, a new trash experience for you and your family.
I like the word experience. It's
Probably
progress.
not family friendly because Izzy will be GMing it, and that
Hey.
one has a sailor's mouth.
No, it's friendly for your family, in that I would watch it with my family, and
Yeah, you got that sailor's mouth from somewhere, right?
my parents swear more than I do.
So yes, a new cultivated tabletop experience will be delivered to you some point soon
in streaming format.
in
With
streaming.
the focus on cult pie.
What?
Cult experience. It contains.
Shut up.
Anyway, I don't know. That's a sample of Izzy. That's a sample of Izzy at her finest. So I mean, if that hasn't drawn you to want to watch this this upcoming stream, then I don't know what will.
I don't know if you heard. I have a creature in my house who is laughing while I am unmuted, so that you think I'm laughing at your bullying of me, when in fact he's just laughing at himself because nobody cares.
Creature.
Anyway, I shall close by thanking our wonderful supporters on Patreon.com, who are the best of us, and in some cases, very specifically, the worst of us.
Only one of us is the worst of us.
A couple of us are the worst of us, and they are Andre Cherpnin, Araloki, definitely among the worst of us, Dinkledore, Elagos Alexander, Henry Prestige, really quite a bad guy, James Malloy, Joe, Ken Pointer, atrocious, Michael Bowman, an angel among men, Mike Fielding, Mike Seabomb, it says here, Photosynthetic, and the Armchair Egyptologist, absolutely just a walking hate crime. So you have some idea here of the sort of company that we keep. I hope you all look after yourselves, because we treasure you and we think you should treasure yourselves.
Yeah. I would kill for you.
Yeah.
I would.
I would, and
Yes,
I have.
I would help conceal
Oh.
evidence
Yeah.
for you at most. But that's pretty good. So until then, whenever it is, eyes on the skies for all of our news. We love you, and we're out.